Ready?
We're good.
Okay. Thank you all for all being here. This is the Future Land Use Steering Committee meeting. Today, we're going to do it a little different. Members, we're going to go through and we're going to knock prints out and go over it. But when I say knock it out, it may go quickly. It may take a minute. As always, please speak up. This is our map that we're putting together. It is not the staff's map. So it's important, as always, that we talk, speak, and get a little conversation going if we have questions or anything to add. So that'll be what we are used to doing, but we're down to the number 23 out of 23, the final. And then we're going to go back over and just a quick review to make sure, because some of y'all haven't been here the last meeting or two, and make sure everybody gets caught up. If you have a question, then please ask. If there's something you thought was being changed but didn't change, then bring it up. Maybe staff did not put that on, or maybe we misunderstood. But primarily, it'll be to go through to make sure that this is what we wanted for each area and each place. So we'll do that. And then the difference today will be, we'll actually take we'll take public input. If anybody wanted to come and see what we're doing and had questions, it just gives us a little bit of thought from the public. We haven't been letting the public talk at the meetings, because after we get all of this together, like we've mentioned, this will go to the general public. It'll be on display, and there'll be several times around town where maps will be put over here and here and here and here, and general public comes in and looks at it. They talk to staff, they talk to any of us that want to be at those meetings, and they get a good idea about what is going on. And then it'll end up with the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will look at it, and they will either go with the map, or they'll change the map, and not change it, but they'll do their map. It may look a lot like ours with just one change or two. We don't know. It's got to get there first, but it goes through that process, and eventually to mayor and commission. So just like we've been saying the whole time. But today, as we finalize a lot of what we're doing, and possibly all of it, we just thought if it was, it might be a good chance to hear a little bit from the general public. And then that would allow us to come back and tweak it if it was something we didn't think of. Great idea. Let's go back. Let's look at it at the next meeting and then move forward. So with that, any questions from anybody that has been here lately or has not been here lately? I think, and I did not get the time today to add up all the meetings we've had. We've had a lot of meetings, so we kind of know what we're doing now. So don't worry if there are not any questions. But as always, just bring up anything as we go along in the meeting that you might have and thoughts that you have. Yes, Ken.
I've been involved in following development on the east side that went before the Planning Commission, and the Cedar Ridge project. And I've noticed a new term seems to have come in characterizing Gainesville Road, right. And it's been called in writing, and I believe one of the staff members referred to it too, as Gainesville Road as a corridor of significance. What's that mean? Where does it come from?
I think the answer to that is just really just the Webster's definitions of those terms. It's a significant corridor. We could say that about Prince Avenue, which we're going to talk about tonight. It's
why bring up another term? I looked it up on the internet, and it sounded like a corridor of significance was something between Washington and
Long road.
yeah. I-95. Yeah.
Might be in Eisenhower.
I think all that staff is trying to portray there is that in the understanding of that Gaines School Road project, Gaines School Road is a roadway that is being taken seriously, is being looked at closely. That's all that meant. It wasn't a term to classify it as one thing or another.
why introduce a new one?
Well, it's not a term. It's just words.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it matters, I'm on the Planning Commission. I did not take that as a term of significance. I just took it from them, play on your words. I just thought they were it's a significant road. Like,
It's hard enough, especially for us amateurs, when we're dealing with the terms that are presented to us.
yeah, yeah. Well, it at least never came up to us as something that we needed to play differently than other things. So I guess y'all are just kind of using.
I think it was also said because we don't have a whole lot of corridor overlays, just to help point that out to the planning commission that this is one of our unique roads as well. I think that was one of the reasons for it.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
That does have an official sound. Okay, anything else? Questions? All right, go ahead and hand it to Bruce.
Okay.
You wanna-
So I can say, and I don't want to say this to make you all feel tired right off the jump, but next month will be a 1-year anniversary of our first meeting as a group. So with the 6-month timeline, here we are, right? But this is the right way to do it. And staff is super appreciative of your time and your commitment and your thought and your input. And we want to be sure that we have represented that accurately here. So for tonight, we had these 23 areas that we wanted to sit down and have detailed discussion about. This was the last of those, and we didn't quite get there at the last meeting, so that's why we're kicking off the meeting with number 23. A rare thing to do. But we want to have that discussion, and then we want to go through the changes that we heard over the last couple of meetings and show you where we've made those edits to address what we heard you say. And as Alex said, once we complete that, we definitely want to turn the evening over to the folks that are in the audience, that have been watching this process, that may want to share thoughts with you as a group before we enter into that month-long April process of public input. Schedule of those meetings will be forthcoming. We're working to finish those this week. And then that April will set us up for the visit by Urban 3 with their findings. And that'll be the first week of May. And then once we finish that, that buys staff a little bit of time to take the April results and see what we've got in front of us. And if there's something substantive that came out of that we feel like would be worth this committee taking up again, we're going to share that with you in what could be the last sort of official grouping of this or meeting of this group, until this process kind of closes itself out. So
We'd also love for you all as experts in this process to join us at those public
Absolutely.
meetings when we get that calendar available
that's going to be super helpful, honestly. And
and get the word out.
yeah, so planning commissioners, this committee, when that schedule is posted, we really, really want to encourage you to be a part of it and to be there to talk to residents and concerned about what's going on. You guys know this as well as anybody. So to take it in and then be able to process it back out and see where we stand, that would be super helpful. It just strengthens the whole product at the end. Have your involvement at that level too. That's it.
Cool. I'm gonna share this for anyone viewing at home or viewing at another time. So we got to Hawthorne. We talked a little bit about the intersection that wraps the corner here. Happy to get back into that if this group would like to. That was our meeting of the least amount of this group that's been present, I think.
Mark, we may want to talk about the designations because we got some folks here that haven't been a part of the last, like what does gray mean? What does the salmon mean?
Yeah,
You're about there?
I was gonna, yeah.
I'll just sit
I
on.
thought I would mention that. Okay. So just to be clear, we are looking at Prince Avenue from approximately the Loop to downtown. The light gray here is minor corridor. The salmon pinkish color is neighborhood center. So we've got a little bit of ground truthing that's carried over. That's on the boulevard side of Prince. So keep that in mind. This portion you see up here on Chase and Barber came out of the last discussion. So we're going to go over that during the recap. That's a change for the Newton Bridge corridor. We have a few properties along the hospital. And so this kind of gets to a bit of that discussion of some of our institutional zoning that we've had, that we've translated a little bit. We did that a little bit downtown with some government zones. Saw some opportunity there, but would love to converse about that a little bit more. We had a few of the other pieces right around the Normaltown Business District or just down from there around the hospital that we also took to that same category. As we go towards town, we then have a little bit more of the ground truthing going on with some of our multifamily, our mixed density residential.
Mark, you might want to say what ground truthing is. Most of us didn't know, and probably people who've not been here.
Sure, yeah. So for the benefit of anyone that hasn't been intimately involved, every single one of these processes, in our future land use map, so in the translation, we have the parcels here that are colored as opposed to all the remaining background there are parcels that we have touched during this process. And by touched, this body discussed, staff translated to a change to our proposed future land use categories. In some occasions, our old future land use map did not exactly line up with the use on the ground. So for instance, the parcels here that are just down from the historic firehouse on Prince that have been in operation in a variety of multifamily ways and single family. There's some mix of single family in there with those parcels. We changed some of those parcels over to sort of reflect their use on the ground. That's also true of these two parcels here that went to commercial downtown. We took commercial downtown right here to about Child Street is where the edge stops for the downtown. But then the remainder here, we have minor corridor. So again, for the benefit for any of those folks, our minor corridor is our mixed use type category that is along some of our major roads. On occasion, we wrapped that a little bit. So here you can see we wrapped it down Chase Street a little bit to pick up some of the commercial district that goes down in front of Chase Street Elementary as it approaches Boulevard. But then predominantly, we took that about one parcel deep along Prince Avenue there. A lot of this was a variety of commercial uses in the past in our future land use category. So our new proposed categories include this corridor designation. And then we also changed a little bit around the Normaltown Business District to some of that neighborhood center there in the pink. So with that, I will turn it over to the group here for some comments or thoughts. It's probably a little easier at the zoomed in level. Do we want to just start? We stopped right here last time, so probably easy enough to start there, and then we can head towards town from there if you all would like.
I'm looking at like this mixed density residential. Is there reasons those didn't kind of pop up more in this area going into the neighborhoods at all? Or what was the difference you guys really saw between minor corridor and mixed density residential there?
So mixed density residential is a little bit more focused just on residential. Minor corridor has more of a mixed use component, whether that's vertical or horizontal. Most of this area, like much of the residential inside the loop, is traditional neighborhood, which we have translated into neighborhood residential that has a mix of allowances. Many of our smaller scale single family uses, and then also our RM1 use, which is our lowest density multifamily. So there's a little bit of that natural buffer because of that designation surrounding a lot of the Prince Avenue corridor.
You think it would be appropriate to put mixed density residential kind of along that little, right past Automatic Pizza on Oglethorpe, kind of going up to Normal Avenue, and then also on the other side on Georgia Avenue? Would it be appropriate to put mixed density there, or is that too intense?
I think that translates into that corridor, or excuse me, into that neighborhood fairly well. Oglethorpe being another just straight residential corridor in this portion of town. We debated a little bit about Oglethorpe Avenue, but I think there's definitely some sense to be had there. From a staff standpoint, there is some multifamily there already, and there are a few. I assume one or two of those houses functions as a single family house, but the remainder of them are either duplexes that have been broken up into that sort of mansion apartment style that's along Oglethorpe Avenue and parts of Boulevard.
Would you be able to do the same around Chase and Boulevard as far as maybe a mixed density residential designation? Or do you like the minor corridor?
So across the street, these parcels here have, I believe, commercial zoning currently on the future land use is why general business would be the category we've done there, or Main Street business. Those two categories will be the translation. So that's why we took that to minor corridor. There's certainly some merit to portions of Boulevard going to mixed density residential if this body saw fit. I think those are two spots that, yeah, we would point out as you're correct, the mix is going on there. But yeah, the reason this is minor corridor is because of the commercial aspect. Now, as you're fronting Boulevard, you do have a little bit more of that mixed density neighborhood residential characteristic that has the mix of low scale multifamily mixed with single family housing.
Also, I think the government's given clear signals they're gonna sell the Pound Street and the Satula Avenue. Those are looking like they're currently zone G. What would those fall into? I mean, should they go ahead and be applied like a certain zoning category?
You could put the future land use,
You all need to speak a little louder.
could put the future land use from the
Didn't speak up.
adjacent parcels on that one, kind of like what we did with downtown. It's neighborhood residential in that area, I think.
Could you say that again, please?
Neighborhood residential in that area, I believe.
If you,
All right.
We kind of drew a bit of a line around how much of the government future land use we were taking off the map, especially when we don't know for sure. Is that going to go into private hands right now or not? We thought this very building would have been in private hands by 2 years ago. So some of those discussions have not really turned into those types of actions. So we were a little conservative on some of those properties like that. Although we did in downtown, make a change to make kind of the government things just all have a commercial downtown character. But if that is something that the group wants to do, we'd certainly reflect it on the map.
I would support that. Pound Street is a huge amount of acreage. Right, for redevelopment, so. Yeah.
What is the difference if it's left at government and somebody wants to buy it and make it like the neighborhood?
Mhm.
What is the difference between it being government and already being, what do we say? it was?
Designated as something.
Yeah,
So if this were designated, if Pound Street was designated as residential mixed use, and somebody came in and wanted to, if the government were to enter a new agreement and sell it to a private developer, if that private developer wanted to rezone it to a zoning classification that fits inside the residential mixed use future land use category, it would be a 3-month process to do so. Leaving the government on there means it's a 6-month process because you have the extra step of evaluation of the future land use map, which would have to happen under any scenario with a government property. If it went into private hands, you'd have to change the future land use and rezone it. So procedurally, again, very conservative, but a procedural sort of step there is you get to have 2 types of conversations about divesting of government property into private hands.
and why does it take 6 months instead of?
The cycles to come through the planning commission and then back to, it would be the planning
to get
commission
that
twice,
double?
then onto the mayor and commission for their 2 considerations, the agenda setting and a vote.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that is just a length of time for that.
That's right.
Okay.
Additional time is to assess that future land use request change.
It's a policy change.
Yeah. So we had, speaking to y'all, my issue is, it is government today. And the people looking at the map need to know there's a government building there. I mean, that's from day one, we were talking about whether it's government or not, and you can see it. it keeps, I'm just a consistent guy because when I get out of consistency, things fall apart sometimes. I mean, it's harder to remember. So that would be my caution here is that we keep the consistency of government. If it wasn't going to be for sale, and Bruce did say it may not be for sale. I mean, I hear the same indications, but if it doesn't go, if it's not changed from government, then we got a map that's incorrect. And that bothers me. And then more than that, we got a map that's inconsistent. And so that'd be my only caution. And I think if it were on the market today with a for sale sign and listed and going, we might could understand, let's go ahead. But I just say that's my caution to that.
I had a question a little further down Prince. What kind of after the bottle works, between the bottle works and coming towards where we are now? If I'm not flooding the field to bring up yet another area.
Just opposite end. Sure.
Prince, yeah.
Yeah.
That's designated minor corridor. And I wondered if that area where you've got the restaurants and the shops where, you know, they've been trying to calm it for decades. There's been people killed there. They now, I think, have a permanent bike lanes with those ballards. Is that what you call them?
Bollards.
Bollards. So I wondered if something calmer than minor corridor would be appropriate there. I don't know if it'd be mixed density or even perhaps neighborhood residential, where it's very much a walking area from local residences.
Are you talking about the Bottle Works development
The bottle works coming this way,
towards downtown?
towards downtown, yeah.
Okay, so Bottle Works, and then we have the one little commercial entity, and then we have the First Baptist Church.
Yeah, and you've got the restaurants.
It's all CD, is it not?
No, it's Main Street Business now, which would translate to neighborhood center.
Neighborhood center.
What's actually on the ground that's shown as CD across the street from the parcel he's talking about?
That's was that that's not the IT building. It's a
No.
government zone building.
No, that, next to 100 Prince, it's,
Or
the old flagpole.
continuing legal education.
Exactly.
It's what?
The whole UGA's old continuing legal education. I think Tom Scott has an office there now.
Lumpkin House.
Yeah, the Lumpkin House.
So that's the
yeah.
antebellum home that we're denoting CD right there?
Right.
Okay.
I might be wrong. That might be the flagpole.
I was saying flagpole, that's what.
I don't think it's Tom Scott's place.
Still the same building.
I think, yeah. I don't think the same.
That's where the flag,
You're talking about the old Y, right?
it's a big old.
No,
YWCA used to be down there.
Yeah, I'm curious what that actual building is that's denoted in pink.
That
Yeah.
What's the cross street there?
Closest to Childs, I believe that's Taqueria on the left-hand side, and then the little vet office on the right-hand side of Childs.
Yeah.
DF Prince, it's
Taqueria is on.
Taqueria's here.
Yeah.
Tuckery.
Brian Austin's office?
This is,
Yeah.
But this
Outfitters,
used to be New Way Laundry.
the old New Way Cleaners.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the old podiatrist that's become the vet.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's the
that
flag,
clinic.
yeah,
right next to the drive into the parking deck.
In case you're wondering, everything around it on that block is downtown.
CD.
Yeah.
So that little vet office is that word ground truthing there.
Yeah, that's government zone currently.
Is there a reason you guys pulled the CD? Is that the commercial downtown zoning?
It's downtown.
Brian Austin's office? Is there a reason that?
That happened, I think that all happened with the 100 Prince development.
Got it.
100 Prince,
Got it.
that stops here.
Kind of like it. It was something it wasn't, so now they're making it what it is. As that.
What all is allowed in minor corridor? Are you allowed to have residential mixed in with minor corridor, or is it just business?
That's where we started to talk about not always having to have ground floor commercial. We would probably expect a little more ground floor commercial on Prince, I think naturally. But yeah, that's vertical or horizontal mixed use, a little bit more of that.
That's it right there. Oh, so it's not the plate.
If we're good here, I just had a question back where we were on Boulevard and Hiawassee. What are we trying to accomplish with this larger parcel? I mean, I know it's set for a while. I know the owner. It's a good piece. It's just got heavy topography. So like with neighborhood center, I'm just confused because then we've got these other little parcels across the street that are also noted the same. So,
The zoning there is commercial neighborhood.
okay.
And so this is the closest approximation to what the current future land use and what the zoning on the ground would set those properties up for.
Okay, if someone wanted to go in and do single family residential throughout that, would they be able to accomplish that in that zoning?
No, I don't think they can they?
It seems like this is a really good, and I don't want to pigeonhole a piece of property, but like, it seems like this is a really protected, kind of coveted neighborhood for young families. I just don't know that everybody that lives around there would love seeing that piece go neighborhood center when it's an opportunity for more rooftops in a established historic neighborhood. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong about that. I mean, if we need areas for young families to live, and this is one of the most sought after neighborhoods in town to live in, that's one of the last huge pieces available.
I kind of like the connectivity it's got to Southern Mill on the backside though, like if there was some more intense development there, it could create some good connectivity across the tracks to Southern Mill. But I do agree, I think that.
You're talking this piece, Chase?
Yeah, those two.
So this is the power station. This is heavily encumbered by environmental areas.
It's bad, yeah. I've always thought that could only be built out creatively as single family homes with all the topo. I was like, you might just have to sprinkle them in where you can. I didn't know if we were trying to encourage more commercial development style back there.
If, according to our proposed compatibility matrix, it's CN zoning right now, right?
Yep.
Okay. So it's classified as neighborhood center on there, which allows CN zoning, but no RS. You could do neighborhood residential, which allows most of the RS, the RM1 and the CN zone. If you thought it was more of a neighborhood residential and less of a.
I just wanted to get the group feedback. I mean, I don't see, I think we're speculating on the ACC property on Pound. I don't know that anybody knows what's going to happen there. I don't think Georgia Power sells. This is a piece that's sat vacant for a long, long time that the owners tried to get really creative on. And if residential housing is of no option, I don't know. I just would want to have that option where some families could live. My first home was right there on the corner of New and Hiawassee, and it was one of the best places to live ever in town. So I would love to see more of that available for young families if it's possible.
It's a nice little development down there.
It is. And I actually think it's something that could be replicated because the homes are all like 1,800 to 2,200 square feet. It's just like really doable, and that's a pretty big piece of property. I don't know.
I agree.
It seems a little intensive to think that we're going to have like a ton of commercial tucked back in there off of Boulevard. I don't know. Maybe we would. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it seems much more viable that we would invite residential development. It's protected by a historic district, so we know we're going to get a good product.
Would you leave the Georgia
I
Power?
think it is.
I think it's between two historic.
Yeah, I think it
Oh,
is.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not Boulevard, it's not Buena
That's
Vista?
the beauty of that whole plot is it's not.
Okay. Well, I'm a little more concerned with that then, I guess, depending on what was built there, but
I mean, neighborhood residential is what most of the surrounding part is there, which allows a variety of housing types, including some of our smaller scale single family.
Okay.
Detached.
Could I maybe sidebar that and I'll send you an email and I'd like to speak with the property owner because he has more experience and just see what offers he's had. Because I know he's actively tried to see it be developed well and he's run into a lot of roadblocks. So I'll just ask him and get feedback.
Well, if we're wanting to make a change,
We need to do it now.
tonight's the night.
I would have
Yep.
that. Yeah. I would second.
I mean, I think it's a good move. I don't think you're gonna get any commercial development back there.
What would you do with the Georgia Power? Would you get Georgia Power neighborhood or would you change that to?
Well, gosh, they're like almost government. You know, it's like they're like as close as you can get to,
Government
Yeah.
without being government.
yeah. I wouldn't be, I mean, it's such a large piece, I wouldn't be opposed to this. Look at what's on either side of it. If you drive those streets, those are very, very low intensity residential homes. I mean, I think people would be up in arms if you tried to do anything of magnitude back there commercially. I don't disagree with you. We used to hear rumors that Southern Mill would have a pedestrian bridge across the tracks for us and we'd walk over. I don't think it's gonna come to fruition. I know what's gonna go on the last 7 acres of Southern Mill there is gonna be, apartments eventually. I mean, it's a path of least resistance likely, so, and it's a good spot for it. I think everything on this side of the tracks is residential. I mean, it always has been. I don't know. I mean, it's not a huge position I'm taking. I just saw that and it kind of struck me as odd. And it seems like a creative residential developer could go build family homes there.
It seems like a natural extension of the hill style.
For sure.
Housing that could be developed there.
I'm fine with that. I think I'd just question, what do you make the Georgia Power?
I would do the same to be consistent.
The same?
Yeah. I love the consistency of it.
I like the higher intensity on the other side of Boulevard though. And I could even see pulling out the neighborhood a little further down Park, kind of to cross the street and end at the same area. Does that make sense? Like kind of, yeah, right there to the other side, like just squaring it off. I think there's some ownership that's contiguous there, like where some owners have some contiguous properties. So I think that would make it easier for a redevelopment opportunity. I'm with Chase. I agree. I'm fine with, I like RS. What would you put? You said you put neighborhood,
I think it'd be neighborhood residential.
residential?
Yeah.
Both of those. I'd like to push for a little bit further neighborhood center on Park that extends to square off.
I agree with Chase that I would love to open up that sort of difficult terrains for single family, which it currently is not, but right there on Park, that already is a little commercial district.
It is.
You know, I think
Yeah.
fostering those districts that are already there was a
Yeah.
wise idea.
Yeah, you've got multiple small businesses that are all local that are right there on Park, sure, intersect with Boulevard.
I think you're saying it's the topography that's the main constraint on that.
It is, but if you look at back in the day, what Lori Bork did on Pulaski, that was challenging topo up there, and it's a great little pocket of residential. And they were able to get quite a few homes on those streets with challenging topo, and they're all really unique because of it. Like some of them have drive under garages that are built into the hillside. It's really pretty. I don't know. I mean, I think somebody could get creative and open up opportunities for families to live in that neighborhood that aren't there now. I don't think a commercial prospect is going to come in and take that down. I just don't see that happening.
Well, if they, like, I think what you're saying also just seems more natural. So if we're talking a 3-month versus a 6-month wait.
Right.
It would make sense that housing residential would probably be the most likely. Therefore, the 3-month wait would be there. If somebody wanted to do a commercial, then that may be one of those
Yeah,
good
they can always
cycles of
propose it.
6 months, because it does feel like more of a bigger change. So it eliminates that wait for residential.
I mean, if planning had aspirations for a district back there, I can certainly sympathize with that. But in the spirit of being consistent and providing more rooftops for people who need to live in town, I would change it.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Doing that.
And that's 2 big parcels going to neighborhood residential. I'm on the wrong computer here, sorry. Both these guys going to neighborhood residential.
Yes.
Which is consistent with what's on either side.
Yep.
but not, or who, I can't remember if it was, these are remaining. So, okay, yeah, we're leaving that. We're not extending any of that. Or that was, I think, Sam, you had that thought maybe, or somebody.
If it's uncontained, that little commercial corridor as, potential for a little bit of upscaling with commercial, I feel like that would be consistent.
I would like to extend the left side.
Okay, it was you, Chris.
That was me, between Boulevard and Easy Street.
Mongo.
And I think the reasoning there is that the ownership is the same and a redevelopment would be more feasible for that section because they don't have to do an assemblage.
There's a fairly strong neighborhood, though, new housing on the other side of Easy Street Park.
Yeah.
Kind of condemning those people to,
That ownership's the same. Some of that ownership's the same on Easy Street as well.
I think it stops right before the corner.
I think there's a little gap and then there's about 3 or 4 on Easy Street. Also,
It's currently commercial use.
so it's just all the same owner. And so I think the redevelopment would be more likely. I'm not saying I don't think we should run neighborhood center onto Easy. But I think if you squared it off the parcels on the right side, on both sides, I think those areas would be easy to redevelop based off of ownership being the same.
the boundary being, the northern boundary being on the zoning line, so to speak, Easy Street.
Or like a house off of it, I guess. I mean.
Yeah, Easy Street stop there. Yeah, so there's a grouping of property owner and then a grouping of property owner, and then there's looks like one of the newer ones on the corner. Two newer houses on the corner.
I'd push for that. I'd push for some more mixed density residential and maybe even on Barber, Chase, Georgia, and Oglethorpe.
I think those are mostly neighborhood residential right now. Mixed density being a little higher intensity.
What do you, on the corner of Chase and Boulevard right there? Is that the Salvation Army on the right?
Yes.
Red basket on one side
Yeah.
and Salvation on the other.
Why are we stopping? I'm just curious, why are we not intentionally proposing what we see for that corner? That's a really important intersection.
That corner is currently mixed density,
Okay. So it can
but just the first parcel, it doesn't wrap down Boulevard at all.
Okay.
So that's going to be neighborhood residential on, is that right?
It would be minor corridor.
But like going down Boulevard, is that probably going to be neighborhood residential or is that going to be single family residential, you think?
This is all traditional residential now, which translates to neighborhood residential, yeah.
I think this one's a little important because it's in flux right now. There are a couple properties that have been for sale. The price was a little too high, the assemblage a little too tricky, and so they backed off, but it's coming back. I always felt like the Salvation Army would likely end up trading. I think if you think that corner, I mean, would minor corridor not extend to the corner? Why would it change to on the corner commercial piece on the left of to the right of the intersection? Why would we not include that as minor corridor and in hopes of seeing something well built there? I would add it now.
That's
Yeah, it's
fair point.
it's a prominent property that is underutilized right now and it's likely to trade in the near term. I would go ahead and just steer it. I mean, we want to see minor corridor along Chase. We know that.
I agree with that. I think we've got, it looks like 3 parcels, including the Salvation Army, and then 2 residential structures before you get to the small apartment there, the U-shaped. So there's actually 3 parcels right here that line up with the back edge of this, if that has any effect.
Calais. Yeah, and that's awesome. That little residential building is incredible. I just think we need to encourage that minor corridor all the way to the corner. I think I could see somebody going in and trying to do all that at once.
Makes sense, I think.
Change all 3 of those to minor corridor. We good there?
Everybody good? You like that?
That's wondering.
Chris has mentioned a few, and I just want to get back to before.
I have a question. Bruce, why are you querying?
Oh,
You weren't supposed to see all that.
I saw it.
Bruce, you gotta speak up, man.
Well, no, I think it's okay. That's why I didn't say anything. We have a historic district there. We have two homes that are contributing resources next to the Salvation Army building. Having the minor corridor extend across the Salvation Army building, okay, you can maybe make the case for that. The two houses next door, could you do minor corridor development and retain those houses? That's what was going through my head. Because demo of those houses is not an automatic.
Are they contributing structure?
They are.
Yes.
Could you do minor corridor and retain those houses? I think where I was landing when my eyebrows were doing whatever they were doing was yes, I think you could probably do it. The intensity is probably not going to be at the max of what minor corridor could achieve. But I think you could strike, it doesn't have to be, and I think you could strike a balance between historic district and redevelopment of those two properties.
I was envisioning like a Baby Bottle Works someday, you know, with like some storefront along Chase and maybe a little residential above leading up to that corner and it just being this really pretty intersection. That's why I just liked, not for me, I'm saying, but I could see a developer wanting to do that in a neighborhood pocket like that. I mean, I lived on Kane Street and it would be awesome because the only thing you can walk to from Kane Street is, well, it's gone now, but it's been a couple restaurants there on the corner. Yeah. You know.
The urban sanctuary property?
Yeah, it's right across from there.
Density?
Yeah.
So
Oh, interesting.
using the same, I'm just asking if we're going minor corridor to Boulevard, would we also pick up the urban sanctuary property?
That's what I was wondering.
You certainly could. I mean, I know that owner, certainly a commercial, you know, use and could be redeveloped in the future.
It's in the historic district.
It's definitely historic. I think that structure may even be.
I think squaring stuff off just makes sense. I think just having things kind of equal at the same points on both sides makes a lot of sense.
I agree with
Well, I
that.
think when people come in, when local developers come in and look at it, they want the path. They want to know that what they're aiming for is well received. So like if we go ahead and steer now and say, yes, this makes sense, this is what we want to see, I think it helps because there's less speculation, you know, of getting turned down.
Chase, when you mentioned the Baby Bottle Works, did you, in your mind, did you have those two houses being incorporated into that kind of a project?
I did, but Bruce makes a good point. There might be a lot of pushback on that.
Those two houses are in local historic district.
Yes.
Yeah. And they are both contributing.
Yes.
In my mind, they are. I mean,
Okay,
so they're not going anywhere likely. Like,
Yeah, that's harder.
It's not even going to be pushback, as I know you're not. Like,
Yeah.
It just won't. It won't be a arm wrestle on that.
That's a good question.
Baby Bottle Works is DeVore and Johnson.
I know. Yeah, I know. Did we get that?
I was moving down the line. going,
Down further, that's where you want it.
Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Oh, yeah. Whatever that building behind.
That weird, used to be what is it? It's some kind of telecommunications.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
It's been that weird I think it's probably a Russian spy place.
Everything is alive.
Very weird.
Where is that?
It's on Chase, like if you go to Urban Sanctuary, that old church that became Urban Sanctuary, and then you keep going down DeVore Johnson.
Yes.
And then the next building is just this weird building that's always been weird.
Right behind it.
For probably 50 years, it's been the same weirdness.
Sounds like a cabin.
And it's like, it has a telecommunications sign on it. I've never seen anybody go in.
It's a carpenter shop.
It's a carpenter. See, it's weird. I told you it was weird.
But I mean,
It's your carpenter shop.
No, it's not mine.
But
It
you know,
will,
it's
it will,
weird.
we should redevelop, we should zone it for future redevelopment because eventually the owner will.
Which I think that's what we did last time, right? Did we put that into the?
Yeah, they've got a neighborhood center on it.
Changed all that.
But then the problem there is you get close to the chicken plant. Further down you go, you get closer and closer to the chicken plant.
Train.
That's part of the charm over there.
Nobody seems to mind
Go
concrete
figure.
plants, chicken plants. I mean,
I would think it would be the noise.
We finally reached that point where there's nothing else to
to
go
do.
to.
Exactly.
So changing then the Salvation Army and the two houses next to it to minor corridor. First of all, that good? And am I correct in what I said, that being a local historic district contributing structures, we're not putting them in harm's way? Because that's a deal to me.
It wouldn't,
I don't want
if
that.
they get hit with that, this future land use isn't gonna
Yeah.
override that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't think it would, but I'm making sure, I can't see the front of your face like Maxine can. I want to make sure.
Does it add
It's
some?
not-
I'll let you know if he starts doing it.
Yeah.
Your question being, is it preservation? How, what's the weight of that? It's like, that's gonna protect those two houses on that corner,
Yeah.
That's right.
regardless of whatever.
It's like the highest of high.
But does it
Kind
does
of
it add
change.
a zoning stress to an area that doesn't have to have that?
It definitely would put it in. It would make it attractive for a redevelopment opportunity in a way that presently it is not.
And so as a community, if that's not something we want to
That's
exploit,
That's why I was.
why are we opening that door?
So I'm thinking about, and where I landed on not speaking was, if you were to keep those structures but infill behind and around, there would be a way to do that and navigate the design guidelines, keep the historical integrity of those homes and incorporate them into a redevelopment of the corner potentially. And I don't want to get into a mid-century modern conversation, but
There you go.
here we are. Salvation Army is kind of a cool building, but
Yeah, it is.
if this was part of the redevelopment of this. You know what I mean? Like if this was all put together. And this got some intensity and this was allowed to have some little backfilling against here, then this would save the face. The historic presence on Boulevard would remain unchanged.
Like the chapel did with 100 Prince.
Right.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is the lift on the rear.
That's fine. Leave it as is then. It's less contentious and it's a balance.
Saying leave it as is, as changed to the three parcels,
Yeah,
as was discussed.
No, as it's drawn now, I think it's fine, the way you colored it. I mean, Bruce makes a good point.
Do you want the one piece on the corner to go to?
I don't think that you could make the Salvation Army, maybe
Yeah.
the two houses and still cross and put it on the urban sanctuary.
And there's a bus stop and maybe having access to Boulevard opens up some egress route that we're not considering now for
Maybe.
future development. Like, I agree with the two, it's Emily Dingus and it's Isabel Walsh, those are the two houses that are, they're not interested in redeveloping, but that Salvation Army can open up a door to have access to Boulevard.
And if a developer wanted to expand, I mean, again, they just go through the process of changing the future land use. Just takes 3 more months. It doesn't take, it's 3 additional. It's already gonna be 3, so it's not like we're adding 6 months to the process. Just 3 more so it can loop around. So it could be done. I mean, when you see, it's like, so it's not killing that idea. It's just making it another step, which in that direction maybe needs that other step. So if you're gonna change.
Well, it just allows for more input from the community.
Yeah,
I mean, that's when they can come out and talk.
exactly. So
back
that
to-
might be an arm wrestle worth having down the road.
I think we're at no change.
I thought we were taking the two on the corner to minor corridor as well.
I like the two.
The other is Salvation Army and the urban section.
I like those two. And then it keeps the two houses out of the crosshairs.
Just you're talking about just putting the property of the Salvation Army on in that.
And then urban loft.
Well, I mean, that's okay too.
Sanctuary.
Why would we do that spot when you got houses on one side, houses on the other side? Why are we gonna just spot that building?
It's currently mixed density, which is different than all the other ones around it. So it sort of maintains the difference if those two parcels on the northeast and southeast corner of Chase and Boulevard go to line up with the other proposal at the intersection.
It just becomes the gateway toward Boulevard.
So you're talking about
Stop it.
urban sanctuary, that property.
Yes. Well,
I think you all have been talking about it. I might have heard.
Because it used to be a church, right?
Yes.
And that is, I would think, a contributing structure to that community as far as it historic.
It's designated and contributed.
Yeah.
And which can fit in very well with,
Because it was a church. Right? Art.
School building.
well, I mean, it would have been changed to mixed density long after the church.
Or school, whatever it was.
Church.
It had been urban sanctuary for all that many years.
10 or so.
Yeah, it was actually a church when,
Absolutely.
I remember it being a church.
And it was a church when Heirloom was there.
Yeah, well,
So it had been, I don't know.
no, it's a gas station.
I feel like my corridor aligns with kind of what is already in place. I mean, it could be a single family house, it could be a multifamily structure, it could be CO, CN. I think you got like kind of that's the center of Boulevard in my mind. Bruno's got a great spot. He's about to open up on the corner. You got the Jimbo's or whatever it is over there. It's not a place I'm gonna die on the hill about, but I could see squaring it off. I think last meeting I was saying, take everything across the street. I feel the same way here, like take it across the street, square it off. But
Keep the houses out of it.
I'm fine with that.
All right,
So where are we?
so now the question is Salvation Army and Urban Sanctuary, right? That's that's the only two properties now we're talking about.
Right.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? Okay, everybody good with that?
What is that? I don't know which.
Oh, sorry.
Question.
Well, good question. Let's make sure we know what that is. Minor corridor. That's what we were.
Yeah.
Good plan. That's a minor corridor.
Excluding these.
Okay. Minor corridor it is. Now, I want to jump back, if I may, sorry, Park Avenue. I want to make sure, what did we land on? Because I don't remember asking, are we good with it or not? Where Chris was saying we creep toward Easy Street on that. Chris, did we land on anything for that? I mean, to your satisfaction, or did we just talk about it and move on and not?
I've got a lot of crazy ideas and I'm not afraid for people to shoot them down. I'm just throwing out what I would like to see. I would like to end it, I would like to take it across the street and square it off. I mean, I think that's gonna be the thing I'll say all night. So kind of on Boulevard running down Park all the way to the end, like, yeah, essentially squaring it off right there.
I can't help myself. Okay, so coming down to here and across the backs of these lots and then up,
That's a good question.
this is a parking lot.
Yeah. But that's
These
government.
are houses.
If.
Yes, definitely for the parking lot. We don't want surface parking lots on major residential streets at intersections.
If the government sells that building and the parking lot,
Mark, I don't know what the property lines do back
they
here.
kind of get choppy.
You like that?
They get choppy. There's a bunch of properties in
I
my.
think that's this.
Is it all single?
Yeah,
I
all
think-
Brissy.
I think it,
But if we did that,
yeah, I'd go down like 2 parcels south of there. I think it's 2 parcels, maybe.
There's 3 before you get to,
This-
if the brand new house, not brand new, if the newer house is on the corner,
Yes.
this property and one you can't see a footprint of right here. Those are 2 newerly constructed.
I think the owner on the Easy Street also has 4 parcels right there, maybe 5. And I think he'd be open. I think it's the same guy that got the stuff on
So
Park.
what, I'm confused about what our intention is here.
I think this is already an area that's prime for redevelopment. I think it's got an office, it's got warehouse, it's got housing, it's got daycare. I think they're already trying to indicate that this is a neighborhood center. And I think that if you drew it out a little bit more towards Easy Street, I think you're in an area where it would be likely that it would be redeveloped if the zoning accommodated
so
Redeveloped as what?
as neighborhood center, which could be RM1, RM2, CO, CN.
I want to, you're raising good points because you know things, which is why you're here. I do want to caution against some of these decisions being made based off of common ownership. I get it. I get it. Like, but let's think about 20 years down the road and what would be appropriate there in terms of land use, regardless of who owns it or that it's common owners or that kind of thing. I think that keeps us in a safe space. I think you're coming at it from a practical perspective. So making that argument about a neighborhood center, I will say we entertain conversations and for 20 years, we've entertained conversations over here about what that could be to the neighborhood. You know, the barbecue place, why can't we have more of that? The church that's across the street from the barbecue place. Well, is there an opportunity for that church to do some different things on that parking lot that's behind? This discussion keeps coming up. So there is energy around the idea of that being a neighborhood center with some sort of future to it. So I hear what you're saying about coming south of there. But the other point that was raised about the neighborhood here, I think we've got to strike a balance. So if this stayed government, knowing that if this ever changes, this parking lot and that building would likely kind of redevelop together, or at least be sold together. Coming down to here, coming across the back here and just stopping.
I'm good with that.
Is that okay?
Makes total sense to me.
I think that's what he was talking about. But
Yeah,
yeah,
then I think I threw in Easy Street too, but I'll pull back on Easy Street. I like what you're saying.
So not going to Easy Street, but taking that
Leaving a bit
jagged
of a
line
buffer.
across.
one parcel off of.
But then up,
A little bit of a.
that parking lot.
You do get into the historic district on those little, on the corner, yeah. Going up easy and,
Well, no,
these two parcels, or these three parcels right here in the Buena Vista.
that's too far down. What I was pointing at was not including any of those three houses.
I agree.
Nothing on Easy Street.
Nothing on easy.
Nothing on easy and none of the houses on Satula, but the parking.
Right.
And then
But the parking lot's government. I think we're keeping it government.
Say that again.
The parking lot is government right now, and we're keeping that government. What you were saying. Yeah.
Thank you.
I wish you all would fix
Sorry about
it. You make it bigger that the street names don't get smaller. I mean, it's the street names we need to see.
So I believe
It's
what
ignored.
Bruce was just mentioning was
And it's the way.
these parcels here. So, is that what we're saying to potentially match up with this?
Yep. Right, Chris?
I like that idea.
And the building, I just can't remember, Easy Street and Park Avenue, that long building is a residential.
Yeah, this is one of the newer ones, and then there's another newer
Okay.
here. Some older, smaller houses, and then some larger historically designated houses.
So we're talking about going to the back of those lots.
Correct. Yeah, so, yeah, there's a lot line.
Yeah.
And then that would be a neighborhood center?
These guys matching up with this to potentially be put together for a redevelopment.
Which matches up with what's going on across the street, more or less.
Same depth.
Yeah, it's kind of that feel all over there. That's a natural place to
We've
add.
got room for another White Tiger plus some residential up top, a mini bottle works or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a cool warehouse on the right side that could get redeveloped to some kind of mixed use space.
Okay, everybody follow that?
Yep.
Everybody good?
Yeah.
All right, move on.
This year's keep talking.
Good thinking.
It's all about commercial. Redevelopment. Redevelopment. Commercial.
That would be compatible with neighborhood.
What do we, can you go over the Sunset, where Sunset hits, Prince? So we're in VFW, backing up to the, school. What are all those, the multifamilies right there? They're not colored in at all. What is that?
They're currently mixed density.
That's mixed density?
So what would those most likely, they'd stay mixed density residential?
But yeah, that's what we currently have them as, yes. So we're talking in here, Matt?
Yeah, I just didn't, I mean, is that prime for future development if somebody want to come in and build something for the medical school for?
I think it's already zoned orange. It's pretty flexible.
It is? Okay, all right. Done.
So where are we now?
That's on Sunset, corner of Sunset, where the apartments are, run down apartments.
Cross Street.
Near Bishop Park?
Across from the VFW.
You know where the airplane? I know.
That's where it gets off.
It's really run down.
Very run down.
So we're leaving that alone then. You're
Yeah, no, yeah.
good leaving that?
I didn't know what it was.
Okay. But in that area,
Or will be changed.
what's touching Prince, we're good with
Gotcha.
You need to say
that minor
there.
issue there.
That'll be great.
Okay.
There's some good redevelopment opportunities along that.
What's that little gap across from?
It's a property.
Yeah.
Also mixed density. That's that apartment complex that goes back into the
Oh, yeah.
Texas.
Winfield Chase or.
Oh, that's one, yeah.
Twinfield, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff happening.
So that's mixed density and stays.
And I think my reasoning behind the mixed density residential versus the neighborhood residential is the neighborhood residential runs up to RM1. And I think a lot of these multifamily buildings that are in some of these Oglethorpe, Georgia Avenue areas are already RM2 or more as far as their intensity. So they're already, non-conforming to what we would be putting in place if we put neighborhood residential. And I think mixed density offers a higher intensity and also aligns us more with ground truthing. I would say that Georgia Avenue has 2 apartment complexes that are both not RM1. I would say they're closer to RM2 if not more. So why not go ahead and call it like it is?
So this portion of the block right here, Chris, is currently mixed density. And then the parcel over here with the other apartment complex is also mixed density.
But I think like, for example, one of those has 25 bedrooms and it's RM1 and it's on less than an acre. And so like, that's already close to RM2. Why not put it up there and the mixed density residential rather than neighborhood, because neighborhood is caps out at RM1.
Those are both currently mixed density.
That's what they would be under?
Yeah, we haven't changed those. Yeah. Those are.
They'd be mixed density, which starts at RM1, RM2, RM3.
Yeah. So this little nub, which is called Orr Street, learn something new.
What is that called?
Or, not like, like Bobby, not the mining. Yeah.
Right.
Can you make it larger?
Or. So
Streets don't change.
So these in here, all mixed density currently in future land use, and this parcel right here with the other apartment complex,
I'm on board.
also mixed density. But you're correct, they are RM1 zoning, but they could be elevated through the 3-month process then.
Barber Street was another area that it feels like you've got, was that going to be a mixed density residential area too, going down Barber?
Where?
On Barber going out past the old outfitter or whatever it is. Where am I at? On Barber? There's a lot of multifamily on that. Would that be mixed density residential or would that be neighborhood residential?
So what we have changed, currently we've got Main Street Business, which is our neighborhood, translates somewhat to our minor corridor or our neighborhood center. Then we've got mixed density, and then we've got mixed density across all the way to almost to Boulevard Woods. It stops maybe right at Boulevard Woods, yeah. So that's all currently mixed density behind there. And mixed density on the western side of Barber as well. I like it. With the exception of the historic.
All right, I'll stop messing with it. Anybody else got anything?
With the exception of the top house?
Top house, yeah. We are planning the run through and then we've got a whole month of input still, so there's plenty of time.
Not your last chance, if you think of a property.
Anything else? Prince?
I think we've done it.
All right. An hour and 2 minutes.
So quickly want to run back through I've got 8 areas that I noted we had some reasonable amount of change from the initial translation to what this group said. Run through those pretty quick. I'm going to use it on the slider map. Is that good for everyone? So our first piece that we sort of changed a reasonable amount on was South Millage and the Loop and Macon Highway. So you'll remember from discussion, Town Center, let me zoom in one more for you. Town Center around the commercial center there and between the driveway and Macon Highway where the hotel and the gas station, the old vet clinic were. Minor corridor on the eastern side of South Millage and then minor corridor going down Macon Highway. Oh, sorry. So folks were saying to extend that town center. So we've got minor corridor to town center on those parcels. There was some discussion about down here by the river, so please keep that in mind. We didn't go that far with it, but if you all wanted to go that distance. And then the other piece is across the street. We went to town center as well. We finished at the courtyard development there with the commercial building in the front and the cottages at the rear there, across from Davis Street and the grocery store market there. Did we capture that discussion properly?
It's a Pakistani market.
Oh, okay.
It's next to an Indian Pakistani restaurant now.
Former car wash,
Former car wash.
adaptive reuse of a car wash.
Used to be a motorcycle taqueria.
Main food.
Does that look like what we talked about? That's what I'm recalling.
You know where we're talking about.
Okay.
Good. We went out to these sides. I'm going to stay in the order I think we went in as we discussed them, although I wrote them in a weird order here. I apologize about that. So we went out to the east side after that. We had some. Okay, so let me go back to where we started. We had the town center around the Publix Kroger shopping development, wrapped around College Station down to the church property. Had minor corridor across the street at the Green Acres Center. Had minor corridor going down to Cedar Shoals. Had some mixed density residential and mixed density residential extending away from that. So we kept the town center where the Publix Kroger are. But then we went to neighborhood center for those 3 corners of Barnett Shoals and Gaines School and Cedar Shoals there. So across the street to Ansonboro, Georgetown, down to Waffle House, and then the Aldi Shopping Center, the church property, back to the older apartment complex before the high school, and then the Green Acres Shopping Center down to the church property on the eastern side. So
I really think that's good.
wipe right here once more.
Yeah.
Love that slider.
Feeling good?
That's good.
Kent, you like it?
Yeah, I do.
Should the neighborhood center be
Oh, I thought you said
pushed
it.
across the street on Cedar Shoals to, on that corner?
395.
Just keeps going. I mean, it seems like. I think we covered it. Personally.
I like all that.
I'm okay with that. I mean, as far as how it is.
I don't know if it makes that much difference.
Yeah, fairly similar in terms of the intensity, building, building form and those types of things, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had just felt like this side of Cedar
Mhm.
already had that natural ability as as going into neighborhood center. And because we talked about this a lot, we changed colors a good bit.
We did.
Jumping around town center to, I think, if I remember right, to the neighborhood center, et cetera.
And we did, and we have to that. I mean, we were doing part of that. And then we decided no to do it all. I'm really glad we decided to go ahead and do all. Gaines School Road, it didn't make sense just to do half of it.
Now, are you gonna show Gaines School Road as well?
We didn't have much, well, once we get to the Lexington and Gaines School sort of had a little bit, so we'll get there. But we also, you guys changed a little up that we didn't even have, so I want to jump to down Barnett Shoals real quick, if that's okay. So we have here, this is the Shoals development that's in review right now. That's the extension of the Lakewood plan development. And this body was mentioning that there was some other potential around there. We had mixed density coming away from Lexington Road. And then we've got the park parcel, the proposed library parcel. And so what we heard from this body was to extend a little bit more minor corridor. So that adds to some of the opportunity here on the western side of Barnett Shoals. Going I guess, north from the park property in Carriage Lane, and then also going south towards those multifamily developments that were over there. Were we hearing you all?
The Gaines School Road.
Yes, ma'am. Yep. Going up the hill there. We're kind of at the bottom of the hill right here, if that helps anyone orient a little bit.
That parcel that's where, like, that touches the library, where we turned it to minor corridor, those 3 parcels right there, 4.
Yep.
Was it mixed density before?
Yep. That is correct.
It's a nifty little line, isn't it?
Yeah. That's good stuff.
I do too.
So is that,
You should have one of those.
this was one that sort of got brought up on the fly. So this was one we were hoping we heard y'all correctly. Just want to give.
I mean, that's not going to be developed as minor corridor. One of the gentlemen who owns that just passed. I'm sure his estate would appreciate the path of least resistance to mixed density residential, because I've had one of those parcels under contract before, and it would be much more compatible to just be townhomes along Barnett Shoals, because that's what everything else is. I just want to say that. I mean, I don't know that little spot of minor corridor sandwiched in between the proposed library side and all the other apartments is actually going to end up that way if you want to steer it that way. But if I was zoned RM2 right now and went to minor, I mean, I just want my RM2. Everything else on the street is.
Yeah, and RM2 and townhomes would be perfectly fine there.
Move your little line again, please.
So you like going back to.
So you want to go back?
Well, all I'm saying is it's as it is now, it is actually viable that somebody comes and buys it and develops it. No conflict of interest here. I'm not doing anything with it, but I have studied it before with a land planner. Minor, I mean, I don't see minor corridor. I mean, it is a minor corridor, so it makes sense. I understand the logic, but everything around it that has worked to date has been apartments built to the street.
Because that's what it's allowed.
Yes, well, that's true. Yeah, and if we think that we're doing a service to that corridor by trying to include some minor corridor, then I think that's a good discussion. I mean,
I think part of that discussion was the potential to bring what the Shoals development might bring across the street, so that there's a little bit more of a cohesive feel. And that would probably lead to some potential changes on Barnett Shoals to tamp down on the speedway effect that was going on there. I think if I recall correctly, the speed of that road was one of the reasons why I think folks thought about possibly pulling it across there to create a.
that makes sense. Does minor corridor promote commercial on the ground floor?
So that's where we're talking about vertical or horizontal mix. So I think we would be much more flexible about horizontal mixed here. So it would allow the ground floor townhomes and stuff, but would also incorporate some of that small scale commercial.
Okay, well then that's not a big deal.
But mixed density residential also allows for some commercial use as well, right?
More limited, but yes, yeah, very, very small at that point. Yep.
I know nothing about the plans for the Deacle property. Do the plans bring it all the way out to the street? I mean, there's.
Yeah, the entertainment
Street.
So the entertainment district is directly across from Carriage Lane, pulled right up to Barnett Shoals. The commercial center would be focused right in here.
That's approved. That was approved a week ago or 2 weeks ago.
I mean, I could go either way, but
Well, when you talk about the traffic easing, that makes sense to me. I wasn't part of that conversation because I missed that meeting. So sorry about that. That makes sense.
I think we're looking.
you can still have residential there.
The major difference, if you leave the minor corridors, you can't put RM3 in there, right? Is that the main practical difference?
Correct.
Yeah, you'd be capped out at RM2.
Yes.
Caps out at RM2, yeah.
Like that one parcel to the right, the smaller sliver. That sewer is very challenging and the topography falls back down. The only way to develop that is to build townhomes with drive under garages on the back up on the street, right? So that's what made me think like, oh man, I don't want to propose something that's not likely to be built over there, because if you keep it the way it is, somebody could go build townhomes along the street and provide more housing there.
So one of the other factors, and you're right, the topo's hard, really hard.
Yeah.
Since the two recent developments here from a land use standpoint that I think was also part of the discussion was proximity to a new community resource in the library
That's big.
and proximity to a new community resource in the Greenway. You have a trailhead there that can actually get you to campus. And so having a little more density, I thought was where y'all were talking, with those two resources being right next door and not having to cross over Barnett Shoals. To Mark's point, we also heard that discussion of balancing, some more commercial uses on either side of Barnett Shoals
Yeah.
so that you don't have to cross.
Well, and we know that's a dangerous bend in the road right there.
Yeah. So
And it is a speedway. I mean, it is a speedway.
Okay, that makes sense.
But that's where it was coming from.
Yeah, no, that's good context. I think that makes sense. Let's leave it as y'all change.
They would.
All right, we'll jump back out to Lexington and then we'll head back into town after that. So we're focusing on the intersection of Gaines School, Cherokee, and Lexington out towards the Walmart shopping plaza, which is in the pink there. So we had major corridor quite a bit throughout here and heard a lot about intensity of that and some of the surrounding neighborhoods. We then had some corridor going down towards the loop, towards in town. Had some discussion about the opportunity for airport development and what type of business that might bring. So we toned down a little bit of that corridor. We brought back some general business. You can see there in red. We translated Satterfield Park to a park. And then we pulled the major corridor down to minor corridor to kind of reflect some of the building heights that are out there and some of the smaller scale neighborhoods that are to the rear of those properties. Everybody good?
I think so.
All right. All right. Next one was downtown, not a lot of change.
I'd like to reconsider Gaines School Road, which is almost all mixed density, which allows RM3, which seems like that whole corridor out there is mixed density, the way that it's set up now. And that's an awful lot of potentially RM3, it seems to me.
All right, you'll have to help us know what street you're on because we can't see the street names.
Gaines School. So we've got the Willowwood Shopping Plaza,
Got it.
got the Early Learning Center, and then going down to Hillsman here.
What would you see there instead?
Well, maybe the minor corridor, which by its written definition always scared the heck out of me because it sounded to me pretty much like a major corridor. We certainly don't want that. But the RM3 is really dense stuff, and that, the way it's set up now, that would occupy most of that corridor. I wonder if a minor corridor wouldn't be more appropriate. I would limit you to RM2. And I don't understand it fully now, but I didn't understand it before we got the compatibility matrix.
I could agree with that.
You know, moving down, further down the street too, I think, I make the same point, going down towards Kroger.
Is that first government building there, the old gang school?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the school.
I thought that was your building.
Maxine Eason building.
What?
Is it not Maxine Eason building?
No. Close but no cigar.
I like minor corridor.
Pardon me?
I like minor corridor. Would you still have mixed use?
Just on the west side you're talking about. I mean, the east side.
Minor corridor would also have on the compatibility matrix CO zoning, which is already out there. Some alignment there.
The definition of minor corridor doesn't talk much about surrounding neighborhoods. It kind of is an incidental reference to them, but the breaks that minor corridor would put on the density of the zoning, I think the RM2 would be much more appropriate out there rather than the RM3, which is.
Do you have a depth you would assume? I mean, you can tell some of the difference here on this block, but once we get down a little bit further towards Hillsman, it gets a little bit more complicated, I guess. And did you have any thought on the depth off of the corridor that you would be interested in taking that?
Not really. I know well, what would be the density of the housing that's going up at the corner of Research and Barnett Shoals now?
Well, that's mine. That's RM2.
That's RM2.
Those are all one bedrooms.
You like that density in that corridor? That would be something we'd like there?
I wouldn't want to see all of Gaines School and Barnett Shoals Road going down to Whitehall in RM3, or even as dense as Chase's project.
Is mixed density residential on the matrix to RM3?
Yeah.
Minor corridor is consistent with the airport overlay areas on Lexington. We put minor corridor in that area. The better part of Gaines School Road is in that airport overlay, which is so there's a constant that. I don't want to spend too much time talking about zoning because we are going to be amending our zoning. So the rules we're assuming are in place are going to change. But I will say this, we have an overlay that corridor right now that greatly restricts what can happen there.
Sometimes.
So
Which is, if the project of Cedar Ridge is approved, will pretty much gut that overlay, at least on that parcel.
only on the one parcel, but the overlay is intact. So again, I don't want to oversell the zoning side of this, but there is that protection on height and intensity and yield exists in that overlay today. And if that overlay is ever amended, it would be done with a mind towards the discussion that's going on right now. So if what you're saying is minor corridor is preferable in its current description, then that designation, that would help the policy discussion down the road when it comes time to talk about the overlay, or when it comes time to talk about any new zoning district that may be applied to Gaines School. I don't know if I'm.
So you're supporting the notion of a minor corridor?
I'm falling in either camp. I just wanted, your comment about minor corridor came also with sort of a comment with concern about potential development leaning on RM3. You were referencing RM3 a lot. I was just kind of balancing that with the fact that we have an overlay and we have some other factors. We have an airport overlay and we have a corridor overlay that are already greatly depressing the yield on that corridor. So RM3 isn't suddenly going to happen with this designation. So what character do you want on the corridors?
The overlay doesn't go very far.
All the way up to County Street.
It goes pretty far.
Goes far.
Not the airport overlay. He's talking about the Gaines School Road.
Gainesville Road overlay. Doesn't go past Cedar Creek, I don't think.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
And so when the overlay is essentially gutted for the Cedar Ridge project, if that goes through, then that's gutting most of the overlay.
Only on one parcel. That overlay still exists all along that corridor.
Anything that PD didn't address is still intact for that overlay as well.
For the corridor from Lexington to where?
To Cedar Shoals, isn't it? It's down to the corner. that
It's
we just-
where the urgent care spot is.
Yeah, so that's Cedar Shoals. Yeah.
Okay, it's a little longer than I.
Yeah, it's a good piece.
To where the urgent care is,
It's new.
It's new, across from Ansonboro, that intersection of Cedar Shoals and Barnett, or that section of Gaines,
That brown building.
Jimmy Bernstein's old building.
Yeah.
On the corner.
whoever that is, yes.
So my friends and neighbors in Cedar Creek, I know, would like less density along there. More in tune with the Cedars, the neighborhood overlay that's existed there for 25 years, the state's McCarter overlay.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So I guess, again, the concern is if we're changing things because of zoning that's currently there, first of all, it's not our concern, but it is a concern. So I get that.
you just can't ignore it.
But that's gonna come back around, not through our committee or a committee.
Right.
And not flank us, but adjust to this. So I'm easy on anything that you just said, whether we leave it or whether we change it. But I don't think it should hinge on RM3 because that could change, correct?
That's right.
Not that it will change and not that they have plans for it.
But this is an opportunity for this body to say to the future zoning committee that we think
have it.
RM3 or a land use designation that would permit RM3 is perhaps
But it won't prevent RM3. They could,
prevent it.
correct?
You'd have to go through a different process to ask for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, it won't prevent.
I didn't make my point very clearly and I apologize. What character do you want to see on the corridor? And then what is the land use description that we have right now in front of us? Which one is best?
I think it's Main Street storefront that I would like to see on Gaines School, and I think minor corridor aligns with that.
Lines with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I like the character that Bruce was saying. That's what we're doing here.
I don't like depending on an airport overlay. Because I don't think you can depend on that.
The planning commission the other night, the overlays were brought up. And a couple of the commissioners said, well, the future land use committee is talking about that. We don't need to.
How will you do the deep parcels? Are you doing like we did on 29?
Which parcel?
About like the depth of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'd really, if, it sounds like we're going towards minor corridor. That sounds,
On both sides? On both sides of the corridor?
Does it have to be both sides?
I'm asking.
And the whole thing is put it on both sides, square it off. So I like taking it on both sides.
Typically with corridors, we've gone one parcel deep. Typically.
That gets pretty tricky right there with those two parcels. I mean, are those two whole parcels? I mean, would you be okay seeing some increased density in the backs of what would be minor corridor up front to provide some rooftops in the back? Or are you just worried about traffic overall or the character of the street?
The traffic and the character is what, and a rapid,
We take this
Very
block by block.
abrupt change in it as well.
Alex?
And I'm also thinking, as I said earlier, I'm seeing the same high density going down towards Kroger.
All right, why don't we do this so we understand, Kent, what you're saying? Let's start up here, at the gray area and just, Mark suggested block by block. Why don't we look at each block
Parcel.
So
at both sides?
these guys right here,
So
mixed density.
Yeah.
Minor points.
you're sort of suggesting that, and Bruce, I think you're suggesting that you think the growth of the 30,000 people that are coming requires the high density perhaps, or what you think would be more desirable?
I'm not, just to say, I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting we stick to future land use and not get too into the zoning. So that was kind of where I'm going. And then we're just sort of going down that road to see. So we can kind of discuss each.
But weren't his comments related to future land use?
Oh, absolutely.
He didn't bring in, he didn't
Well,
bring
he's
in
talking about,
something.
he was talking about.
You actually brought in RM3
Yeah.
and so to change something because it's prevents RM3 could kick you in the tail later if something comes around or zoning.
Let me withdraw my comment about RM3.
Okay,
And go back to character.
yeah, then if the character of minor corridor works, then that's all we should need to worry about.
I've seen nods and I'm hearing positive movement on that front personally.
Is anyone, let's just make this easy, going all the way, Kent, you tell me for now, or tell us, going from the gray all the way to where do you feel comfortable?
Can we? Yeah, go for
I
it.
think you could go gray to government, one parcel deep and do minor corridor all the way down and be fine.
Yeah.
The only thing that I'm concerned about is the viability of those two really deep parcels actually being minor corridor. That's very unlikely. So I mean, I don't want to hamstring some property owner with minor corridor on a parcel that's like a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Could you explain that to me, please?
Well, I understand your sentiment about this being like to Chris's point, that was really well said. I mean, you want a Main Street storefront experience that's compatible with what's there now. And I actually do agree that these individual parcels that are like post-war single-story homes, they've all been converted to offices for the most part.
Yeah.
So I think that's in the spirit of minor corridor. When you hit those two really, really large parcels, how are you going to develop those as minor corridor? You're going to have that much street frontage and all the bulk of your viable land is in the back. So that needs density. Those owners need density to develop those.
In RM2,
Mixed density residential would allow that, yeah.
I don't use,
Yeah.
what should I say, condos?
Mixed,
They're currently large apartment complexes.
yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, is it possible we're talking more about this block, and these blocks? Is that more of what the feel
I
is?
think you could do everything but those two large parcels, those like all the way.
No,
Yeah.
all of these are 3 large apartment complexes.
That's ground truth. You've already done it. That's fine, right?
That's why we changed. Yeah. That was the translation we put in. Yes.
So maybe just stop to the right of the large parcel and take that up to the gray and just make the one parcel deep.
We're definitely good on these right here.
Yep.
Can I say that much?
Yes.
Minor corridor. Okay. We're good on across the street on Gaines School. There as well.
Yeah.
Let's stay on this side before we get tough.
Yes,
Yeah, that's.
Good. And Cedar Point as well?
that's tough.
That's the Mexican.
Or do we just want?
I'd say the front one's on Cedar, on that development right there.
Just these guys?
Oh, yeah, that's Cedar Point.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it doesn't make as much sense.
Or do you just stop right here? We go here to Ponderosa? These guys right here.
That works for me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the tough block,
What was that?
the tougher block. Do you, it gets a little jack-o'-lantern toothed, to go one parcel deep. Do you guys want to take minor corridor back to Spring Tree?
Chris, would you like to square it off?
Take it across the street. That's a tough one. I'm actually saying, I don't know if I'd square it all the way off to, are you saying go back to Springdale?
I'm just saying, this block in here, I guess. You know, if we did one parcel deep, we're talking here, obviously. And then you've got parcels sticking into that.
Yes.
That would get, if there was ever putting anything together for, you know, this.
We can't make everything a clean line.
That could also transition.
David, you're thinking.
Yeah.
David,
Aren't you
you're thinking just the
excited? I
front.
agree with it.
Thank you.
David, are you thinking just the front parcels on that block right there?
Yeah.
And leave the back mixed density?
Anything that fronts and that's it?
Well,
So how deep would that be then?
Parcel by parcel?
Whatever the.
Just one parcel deep.
And,
I mean,
and how deep are those parcels?
They vary.
But I am like David, everything isn't squared. And if it's not squared, we can't make it square. And so we just gotta deal with what it is.
just take those parcels as they relate
Yes.
to Gain School and make them minor corridors.
Only these parcels touching Gates.
Yes.
That we're doing. Okay.
And if somebody compiled the land and wanted to do something,
They got an
they
opportunity.
can ask to
They
change
can.
it. If
That's
they
exactly
feel not
I
to.
mean,
And they might have a good chance to get it.
They might. Okay, one parcel deep, that's all. Okay.
School.
And we're just stopping at Cedar Point. We're stopping at the apartment complexes. We're good with that?
I would leave the apartment complexes as is, but then those 4 parcels next right there.
Right now.
Really, yeah, I guess those 5 I would take to minor corridor because you've got the old Charmar there. And I think that's got some cool potential for something commercial.
yeah, I'm good with that.
Well, all of those right there, used to be Raymond James, all those are little cottage houses, but they are very livable. And, if that.
You think it's residential or commercial?
It is
Yeah,
commercial,
it is commercial.
but they still could be livable. Yeah, exactly.
Preclude you from.
Which minor corridor allows for both of that, I think, which
That's
is.
fine.
So Cindy, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit, but you can bounce it right back. From the school district's point of view, the more commercial, the better right there, or?
I think along that, but it would vary by school, obviously. and by
Right.
area. I think along there, yes, that makes more sense.
I do notice having coached the building, some kids, middle school kids just boom, go everywhere. And so that gives an opportunity.
Finish your sentence, Alex. Gives an opportunity.
For them to go to commercial properties.
Yeah, and we're-
Raymond James.
If they want to go
We'll
trade.
teach 'em.
They all end up at the Chick-fil-A.
I was gonna say, they all go the other way, like
That's
massive.
exactly right.
This might break it up.
yeah, we're,
These parcels, minor corridor as well. Is that one here?
Yes.
The small ones in front. Okay.
and we're hoping over the next 20 years that we'll
And the other
put
side.
a multi-use path along both sides of that corridor, increase the safety, the connectivity.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Does need it.
Schools certainly need much safer intersections there. And I think better connectivity. Would you agree?
I would agree.
And I've heard you say that you'd like the students, 85% of the students, I think, in the county at least, not just the east side, but in the county, depend on motorized transportation to get to school, and you'd like to reduce that. By how much?
And all you can.
I'd like them to have more walkable, options. It scares me to death when I go to Chick-fil-A in the afternoon and I see all those middle school kids there, because think about what they have to cross to get there. And so if there were options down, because we know when they get out of school, they're going somewhere. They're not going around.
And those sidewalks are very narrow and they're right next to the street.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's, not wood, just a matter, it's just really not very safe. So if there were other options to dispel that, and I'm sure Chick-fil-A loves their business, but I'm also sure that they don't love having 200 kids there in the afternoon when other people are trying to get around. So it would be nice to kind of disperse those numbers and give them some other things to do and go to.
So you're talking about the south
Right there
side
with the
of,
cursor.
of the intersection with Gaines School and
Correct.
downward.
Before games, yeah, before it becomes part.
Now, can we throw it across the street also and run it all the way down to Cedar Shoals and just connect it? Like from Cedar Creek, I mean, that's pretty much commercial. There's maybe a few quadplexes on that, but most of that's commercial, right?
So we got apartments all in here.
But if you just go one parcel deep on all that.
So that if it ever changes.
Or if there was a gap right there off of Barrington, that's fine, but I do think from Cedar Creek to that larger square one, I think that's Jimmy Gay's office, which is already kind of a minor corridor building.
I thought we talked about that would be.
So these 5 parcels?
Yeah.
Minor corridor as well?
I think so. It's already mixed. Ocarina.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where it is, yeah.
Better for one more time.
Okay. That feeling good on Gaines School?
Yeah.
Way to go, Kent.
There comes a point where everybody needs to stand up a minute.
Can we keep going?
Okay, I think we've got 3.5 left.
All right.
Oh, man.
Okay, we're going up to,
So when do we get to revisit the further down that corridor?
revisit the revisiting?
Revisit the,
Talking about like Barnett
You
Shoals.
get to come to any meeting in April and let us know.
No, that is not bad.
Actually, it's
That's
what,
not right.
we're gonna have a meeting at Hillsman, so that's one on the calendar already.
What do you mean revisit?
Yeah,
that?
what, how much are we?
well, I'd like to take the same idea down towards Kroger.
Yeah, what did we do past College Station going?
My apologies. I thought you meant looking at the things we just said. My apologies.
No. I can see why you might have,
You were
I can
being
see why
really
you might have
lucky.
thought that.
Not normal, but just really ugly.
So you convert, you want to take that from mixed residential to minor corridor as well?
That's,
Okay, that would actually make a lot of sense.
down,
Let's do it.
down toward,
Very odd.
Here's Kroger right here.
let's see it first.
Where, jiggle your cursor, I can't, there it is,
Yeah.
okay.
We got vet school, we got Kroger.
We created the pink areas there, if you lower the screen just a little bit. Those were changes that we made to create the neighborhood commercial, is that what it's called? Neighborhood center.
Neighborhood center.
Uh-huh.
And we did quite a bit of that, I think, with wide agreement.
Mhm.
And so I'm wondering if below, what would that be, south of the neighborhood centers, we extend the minor corridor.
You're saying this mixed density down.
Yeah,
So we got Clarkdale, we've got the parcel that's around and around. Got Forest right here, the church.
and you got that big 4.5 acres, what, behind the Chevron station.
Yeah, that's that guy.
Which is zoned, oops.
Out of here, walk back to vocabulary.
But we are saying minor corridor can have some residential on the ground
Mhm.
floor as part of their character. It could be storefront or residential.
Yeah.
I like minor corridor on that section too.
Everything that's mixed density right here, going to minor corridor.
Jiggle the corridor, okay, I see it.
Yeah, just the mustard in here. Yeah.
And we had it mixed density, residential.
Right.
Colors are.
Currently, it's a mix of mostly traditional neighborhood.
I meant the new change. The-
Correct, yes, that's correct.
Mixed density residential.
Give Sweetie Pie some fun.
We can make that change. Minor corridor,
Good.
good on that section.
Everybody good?
Thank you.
And it's good, just so we really see it. How far down? Oh, going,
I was going to here.
Going to where the mustard is.
Correct. I wasn't jumping across to the Whitehall Village.
right.
Yeah, just take it down to where Barnett Shoals goes down, turns left.
Do you want to extend it to Sweetie Pies or stop at the triangle?
I'd say Sweetie Pies.
Yeah.
There's no sewer there.
And I live there.
There's,
No idea.
I just gotta say, there's no sewer right here. So
So it doesn't
we
really
can do it, but
So William,
big factor.
I'm sorry, Bruce. what-
There's no sewer
Okay,
right here.
Next to the window.
so that means what?
Yes.
So that's that big lot behind Sweetie Pie.
Too much anyway.
Bruce, to your own argument,
Louisiana.
20 years from now.
I was at 4th Street,
Might
remember?
be some.
Ansley went to 4th.
It's tough. I mean,
What's up the joint?
Could you repeat the question, please?
in 20 years, could there be sewer there? Maybe. It's a definite maybe. Like, it's not easy right there.
Definitely.
So that, I just wanted to focus the question, minor corridor to here or minor corridor to here?
I'm good.
A,
Where does the sewer end?
B, sewer is problematic right here.
Which one's Sweetie Pies?
Sweetie Pies is like right,
That was.
Right, that's Sweetie Pies.
Yep.
That's that lot behind Sweetie Pie.
Kind of good to take it to Sweetie Pies and then go back to
Never heard.
neighborhood residential or whatever we have.
And go back
It's mixed
43
density.
times.
And once you get down Whitehall, it expands into
Another tonight.
whatever it's gonna be, would be my sense.
Whitehall.
So if we
I know.
go minor corridor
It gets kind of wild and woolly down there.
where the sewer isn't good, we're setting up. You're one of, Bruce, I'm just asking, or Mark, one of the issues will be somebody goes in there to develop, is gonna have to ask for a future land use change because
no, they won't have to ask for, we're just kind of over promising something we can't deliver in a reasonable, in the 20-year time frame. To David's point, could it be there? Yes, it could. It could.
That's
Stop it where the sewer stops.
Yeah.
Turn it.
I think that's what Bruce's point was, to stop at the top of the subdivision here.
Yeah.
That has
I
the.
don't understand the overpromise. What are we overpromising?
Well, so when we put a future land use category on the map for which we don't have infrastructure for, take an extreme example. If we put commercial downtown out on Bob Holman, we can't deliver on that promise.
So if we leave this as mixed density, we're overpromising more than if we change it.
Well, I think the mixed density allows for a lower tier of residential, whereas minor corridor, I think, raises an expectation.
Is
It's the other way around.
Is that right?
The minor corridor's got.
I stand corrected.
The minor corridor does have that main street character that mixed density residential does not, from a
minor.
thinking about what
corridor
the
is-
buildings look like and what the.
A main street character
Street
is
character.
meant to be kind of commercial in a way.
So fill in that little vet area right next to the vet school and go to that curve right there.
Yeah, so this is where it stops right here. This is the top of the subdivision where we've got the offices in front of the residential. And then this is some CO zone property.
Where's the
and-
fire department?
And then the run in front of
that light blue is fire.
Oh, the little bitty blue.
What about the wee trailer park? You want anything with that one? The triangle piece?
Okay.
Is that gonna stay mixed density or do you guys want to make that minor corridor?
This is where.
Is there an approved plan on that?
there was a
Yeah,
plan, but that's never, it's dead.
What are you gonna do with that triangle? That is that's a question of the day.
Yeah.
Making it square.
You
They make it a square dog.
You'll always be able to get a massage
The
there.
road is closed.
Okay, do we follow what we
Yes.
are doing? Maxine?
I do.
You don't look
I
following.
didn't get an answer to what.
Minor corridor to the curvy road and across the street and then trail up.
So these three guys, these parcels, and then this run all the way up to the neighborhood center.
That's minor corridor.
Minor corridor.
Isn't that right? Is that what, you like that, Kent?
That matches much more of the Gaines School going towards Lexington.
Get rid of the mustard, make it minor corridor.
That gives it a nice.
Tent just costs whoever has round and round on the contract 3 months.
Okay,
So
so
fourth person to have it under contract.
Kroger was a bit of a shift. However, so we're at 29 and 72 out here. So we had,
Oh, we're out on 29.
sorry, I'm gonna zoom just a touch back out and I'll zoom back in. So the big piece where the newer, is that a racetrack or a QT? Going down to the Athens-Tech parcel there. We had as major corridor. We heard you all say, take that that block to Town Center, which mirrors the Kroger block. Everyone getting that part? Okay.
Why? I mean, why?
No, I think this was good work. This is like, if we went really in depth on how that could all spread out someday, and it felt right. It felt really synergistic, kind of getting the same feel across the street with a town center. I mean, we're trying to Chris's comments from that meeting, we were trying to tone down and get a little more cohesive with the design, so it's not like a future Atlanta highway, you know?
I think this.
I know, we've lost a lot of it up there.
Absolutely.
I mean, we were trying to preserve kind of what we had and make it a little more intentional. I don't know. I only know one interested party that's working up there, and it's just like apartment city, you know? So.
Crazy.
Did you want to go back to major corridor?
No. I'm asking a question because I didn't hear this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were here.
I was not here.
What was the other, you guys pointed out that one parcel to the top left was one of the largest parcels.
Yeah.
I was hoping to do this first and then zoom up there if that's okay. But we can bounce around. You're good.
Go ahead, Mark.
Okay, we're going up. All right, so I believe everything across the street we left around the Kroger development. So this section, we're talking in this portion right here now. There is a planned connection. So Voiles becomes the new Tally Crossing. It'll connect one day. And then there's a plan for this to connect up to J.J. Harris Elementary. So through here, we've had some of the change across the street, or excuse me, down here at McClung Road. So we've got Popeyes and the vet clinic and the Starbucks are in there. So we talked about this piece back in here a bit more and being a little bit more than corridor, that there was some potential to take some town center across the street. We talked about respecting some of the neighborhoods that were up in here. And so we ended up with a sort of a core on the inside here, instead of mixed density, offering up a town center core. Now we had to create this piece. We created this out of some contours and some size. I believe we made this piece approximately the same size as the development on North Avenue in the Loop. And then maintained a little bit of that corridor, mixed density, and then some of the neighborhood residential around it. This was the one we had quite a ranging discussion about this change over here. So we tried to create what we could. There's a large lake right in here. And so that sort of created the boundary over here. We used some topography over here. And then this piece in here is one project that's been put together with a mixed density residential project. So
Like for character's sake, I guess the major corridor up on 29 would be up to 7 stories, commercial, mixed use residential. Then the town center would be up to like 5 centers, maybe create some commercial mixed use place for gathering.
better connections.
And then it would step down through the mixed density into a more traditional setting. So it kind of gradually goes into the single family areas.
That's what we heard.
I think, I mean, I'm kind of with you that this is kind of already gone already, but is there anything we can do to kind of turn it around a little bit or put the brakes on it? I don't know.
I definitely think it's gone. I don't know how you can make 29 slow down.
One of the other points.
And I'm not meaning car speed. I mean development speed.
One of the other points I think we heard was, I don't know if any of us live over in that area, but this might be what that area wants, is more of a traffic, car centric area, you know? It might not be what we want, but they might want just the places you can drive up to.
And so the Kroger parcel, back when I used to work with Kroger a bunch, that's considered one of the more popular parcels that serve the outer counties. So that's very much desired in Madison County.
And they go right by it every day when they go into work and when they go home.
Some people suggested urban center up there, I think.
Yeah, I think I would. I'd put it there. If we're gonna do them all, do that, you know? Go ahead and let them go as vertical as they want to go, rather than coming back 20 years from now and saying, Now you can go 7, we only let you go 5 before. But the likeliness of Kroger redeveloping right now is probably low, I would think.
Yeah, crazy low. I mean, I think the only heartburn on this and where most of the discussion was, it looks ridiculous to have this like, we tasked staff with trying to like follow contours. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, I think this actually has a shot of making planning commission wonder what we were thinking. I'm a little concerned now seeing it on this.
Well, if you want to go back to where the original translation was, do we want to work off of that at all, or is that a little bit more in
I would
line?
be in favor of going back on that part. I appreciate the work you did. I would be in favor of going back
I agree.
and letting someone just propose what they want to do with their property someday.
So leaving this block down here?
Yeah. No, I'm okay going to town center.
I'm sorry, this guy right here.
Oh, yeah, I was okay with it saying town center.
Yeah, going to, yeah, that's, you're saying the right words.
That blob up at the top.
What looks like a lake in the middle of,
I'd be ill if somebody did that in my property. Just put a
Yeah.
block.
We talked about that and it was like, we were trying to protect the property owner and give them more flexibility and encourage synergistic development, but it's ridiculous.
So town center here was a
Yes.
correct change that we heard.
Yes,
However, up here, this attempt, let's just
get rid of
go
that.
back.
Yeah.
Okay, we good with that?
Yes.
All right.
And Bruce likes this because it gives us really good density on some really nice shiny infrastructure. Is that right?
That's what we've said. That's where the good pipes are.
I saw some, what'd you call it? Querying? Is that the word?
a query.
Okay, so we had only a few small changes around downtown, but we did have some discussion about where downtown goes to, so I just want to hit those up real quick. Had mostly some of the government to downtown, so a lot of that was around the Classic Center, you can see. An additional parcel was that parking deck downtown. But we also had a discussion about going north from downtown. We didn't feel we heard enough consensus to change, but we did hear a lot of discussion about this neighborhood right here. Without some firm consensus, we left it as is, as mixed density up. So this is the Charm right here. This is the bridge going across MLK on College, wraps around Willow. There was some discussion about the potential of possibly taking downtown in these directions. But it was pretty split discussion the day we had that, so.
I think there's
We are already translating to extending downtown to cover that concrete block area. So those pieces right there and along the railroad
These are currently not downtown.
proposed to move into downtown. And the question is whether we kept going.
I think we have very few places we have geographic borders, and the river for me is a clear place. We actually have some geographic border. I'm in favor of taking it to the river.
I'm in favor of downtown all the way down the river too.
Downtown what?
Taking downtown all the way down the river. So making the mustard into purplish or pink, whatever that color is.
And let's imagine you have Charm somehow become some really awesome park later. and you could walk down all the way to Dudley Park along the river. That'd be really nice.
I've actually met with a lot of folks on this and I think we're down to like 2 true homeowners in that block. Everything else was mostly student rental done 2010-ish, 15.
But across MLK, it's very different. A lot of those homes across MLK are owner.
Oh, yeah, no,
This would
Chris
not-
was saying the geographic boundary. has to be
Stop it at the river.
We're talking this to downtown, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
But what, I think we have to think about, what does stop at the river mean for the people across the street?
I mean, up.
You're thinking like
I mean, those folks went to Full Street. I know all those folks in there, and a lot of those folks own their own homes there.
Well, yeah, but.
I'm talking about,
You're talking about up there though, right?
That's literally across the river, right?
I mean, there's a bridge spot.
River's here.
Yeah.
So
There's river and there's greenway between.
Greenway, that's exactly what I was saying.
Yeah, I think there's a pretty strong buffer between whatever would ever be done on that peninsula and then the
residential.
yeah, the established residential.
You might as well add the Charm side.
If I lived on the other side.
I think Chris is right. That's like a natural little break right there.
Nice little.
Yeah, I just round it out. I mean, not to be
Enough for that.
cavalier with heavy zoning, but
They're big.
That whole park area there.
But that's a greenway.
Yeah, but it's also a street there.
We've known each other for too long.
I'm for mustard the future.
Yeah,
Up to the river.
I
Okay.
agree.
So
This is like
everybody good with that?
We actually want density down there. I mean, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
So I hear this neighborhood to downtown, excuse me.
Yes.
These three parcels, so we've got Charm, the old dump site, and then the back of Charm, essentially there.
Are they government owned?
Yes.
Then leave them government.
And we'll bring it back to Alex. I think Alex's point was that the only place that we're not gonna have consistency of labeling government property, government was downtown. Was that right? That we said downtown's just gonna all be CD?
We did talk about downtown character, including government properties. We did say that.
Where did we land on that? That we're gonna keep those G, or are we gonna go ahead and classify those?
Show them.
The zoning will change.
We left a little bit of government future land uses, like City Hall. We didn't change City Hall.
So go back to old downtown. Yeah, so we're still showing,
Like the federal building looks like that's, is that, which one's the federal building? Federal building.
federal's gonna be,
That kind of chunky.
we changed Federalville in to
So-
pure downtown.
Courthouse, City Hall,
Post office.
post office. Right.
These probably won't have a post office long.
Garage went to downtown. Classic Center went to downtown.
Yeah, that probably makes
I think
sense.
that all makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was where we were saying only downtown will we mess around
I was trying to remember.
because just that's an unusual
The
land
discussion,
use.
right, the discussion was, and we didn't say it this way, but this is one way we could have said it. There are government functions in those buildings, but those buildings belong downtown. The character is downtown. Classic Center is a downtown use, downtown character land use. So going back to the Charm site, I would put this question to you, if there's interest in somehow pushing downtown designation to the other side of college. That land, having had an incinerator in the past and having had a city dump in the past, is that a downtown character that's gonna reveal itself in 20 years?
Brownsfield site, those are awesome.
The standard was a Brownsville,
Love those things.
Atlantic Station.
I mean, the density that comes from downtown designation might be the only thing that actually financially.
Remediate it.
I'm just posing the question. Okay.
I think, I
Downtown
think we're on
designation
this.
makes the Brownsfield easier to swallow out there too. Case, what do you think?
I mean, I'm hesitant, but I just know like in talking to commissioners, if we have a housing problem and this is where we want our density, then this is a good opportunity to
it's a great
get it.
opportunity.
We
Absolutely.
don't want our density on Gain School. We want our density where we already have podium construction and high density. So, I mean, the only thing I would say is like if it's government owned now, that's a little odd. I mean, but I just have a hard time with the whole idea of like, if it's not up for sale on a public auction website, labeling it anything but what it is. I mean, that seems conflicting and odd to me. But if we're doing that downtown and you want to open up some future density that the government could sell land for, yeah, I have no problem. I mean, going over there. I mean, you've got a greenway buffer between the established neighborhoods along MLK. You've got a river. It would promote a river district, and it would give you, when you get into the zoning, it would give you the density dollars you need to actually afford to develop down there. So
I think it's a great opportunity.
what's the red right there?
These guys?
General business.
Okay.
That plantation buffet or whatever.
So here's my caution is, all right. What you're saying, what y'all are saying in favor of downtown, I get that. It's, if it, how do we show it? Because like you even said, Chase, it's government and I ain't heard a word of this changing. So, but I like that it would change that way. So do we, when you've got, you've got a couple of the downtown pieces that we recolored because it made sense. This doesn't feel so much downtown. So somebody looking at this map, what they see in person and what they see on the map won't be the same. Partially because it's on the very, very edge, like it's on a brand new edge of downtown. So I guess I don't mind changing the future land use of it. Doesn't matter what I mind, but I guess what I'm saying is that, but because that's a good direction. But it's just not that yet.
Like, are you saying, like, will it be?
We're talking 20 years from now.
Well, and I know, and I get that, but
What's happening on College Avenue?
but to call it downtown when it is clearly government use right now, and it's not city hall government use, it's a dirtier government use. Are we getting ahead of ourselves even by changing it?
All right, for precedent, have we colored anything government or something other than government to this point on what is going to be the future land use map?
I think just downtown.
Downtown.
Do you say make something government that's not, or?
Have we colored anything that is current government as a future land use to not be government?
Classic Center and all of that, right?
I think it's just downtown.
Only downtown.
That is showing it's downtown,
has.
which I'm not all in favor of that myself anyway, but nobody's gonna go, what the heck, when they see, I mean, it's gonna fit downtown. They're like, okay, whatever. So that, I'm not articulating this well at all, but you got this far north piece, doesn't look anything like downtown, doesn't act like downtown. And I wish I'd known that was government. I mean, again, I don't know how expensive that is to risk it, it's not like they're going in and doing all these plans before they realize what the heck it is. I get that, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sold. I'll leave it up to y'all.
I think making it downtown encourages to be something better than what it currently is one day.
That's a good.
I don't disagree with that
It's
either.
part of doing what we're doing.
It gives you so much potential. Doesn't mean it's gonna turn into downtown tomorrow. But, I mean, in 20 years from now, if that's where we need to go, it gives you a lot of potential.
And we haven't been able to achieve a true river district. And like, that's actually an area, if the government would ever sell that could be.
I love that idea.
So it feels inconsistent to me. That's all I'm saying. But it's okay. It's up to y'all to decide on that.
Well, I
But
mean, let's take a vote on it. I mean, if we're not comfortable, then let's take a vote on it and see where we stand with it. How many people want it to be downtown?
I have one more question before we vote. My issue is with the mustard section. And so that is very close to the houses across the street. And that's what I'm not talking about, my question didn't relate to the government property.
You're talking about the 3 tan parcels that are just to the east?
I'm talking about the mustard parcels at the bottom next to the pink.
She's talking about right there at the Charm, across the street.
Talking about
these
That's what you're talking about, right?
No,
No,
What are you talking about?
Just touch the screen where you're.
yes, that is correct,
that's
exactly.
that, where his hand is.
Because I was hearing people say that we were including that in downtown. Did I not hear that correctly?
That's what we're saying.
Yes, this to downtown, yes.
But what do you, tell me.
Everything where his cursor is right now are student cottages. It's called Uptown Station.
But I'm worried about the people across the street.
You're talking about across the river, though.
That's what we're
So
saying.
I think what she's saying is that you could potentially have 10-story apartment complexes across the river from these people that have homes.
Yeah.
you're not worried about their property. You're worried about what they see and are around.
Well, I'm worried about what they see, what they hear, what is there.
Yeah.
And they own those houses and
I still say there's a great.
let's just ask this question. I maybe shouldn't ask that question.
Go ahead, ask that question.
Well, you have to
Many
now.
things I hesitate to ask, you know.
No, why are you hesitating?
If that was in 5 points, would we do it?
No, you wouldn't. I don't think you would do it in 5 points. I'll just say it straight up. But then 5 points doesn't have,
But 5 Points have a 200-bed an acre precedent.
I'm up for it.
I mean, this is a continuation of our highest density in anywhere in Athens. I
It
mean,
could be good things, though.
I would be curious if you called, I don't know anybody personally that lives down there in a single family home, but I bet if you called them and told them that they are slotted for future land use CD, they'd be pretty happy with their property value.
I don't think she's talking about the people on the mustard. She's talking about people.
That's a huge.
That's what I said. I think it's a.
Well, maybe I don't have a good, I'm not giving in. Don't hear me giving in. I don't have a good, that just looks like a little sliver of the greenway.
Pull in closer.
It's
Pull
fully
in
wooded.
closer to
I
that.
mean,
It's a huge space.
there's a greenway trail, a pretty dense forest and a river right there.
I
Take
mean,
a straw vote and see how close we are.
It's okay. I just needed to make my point there.
I don't know, down there.
throw it out there, Alex.
Okay, well, we got 2 votes going on. First, we'll go to the first vote where everybody almost knocked the ceiling tiles out, voting in favor of. But let's go back to Charm, those 3 properties. Who is in favor of turning that?
That's the mustard.
No, that is light blue, the light blue.
Like that.
The light blue?
Yes, who's it?
So here's Charm, the incinerator, and then the old dump.
I think we're only
We
talking.
got a railroad right here.
No.
We're talking about.
No, they're talking about all of it.
Making that.
Oh, all up and
We
down.
need to start now.
I don't have to start
Okay.
downtown.
Here,
There's
Can I,
we're gonna go according to the way a map would go.
can I pull this in here?
No. All right, first we're gonna vote on that. We're gonna go backwards from what I just said, okay? We're not doing that yet. We're only voting on the mustard for downtown. All in favor? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, all opposed? All that don't care? There's some I'm just cool with, whatever, and this kind of,
Just for the record, I'm on here as a non-voting member.
oh, that's, yes.
all that don't care.
Well, you put 2 hands out now. Just voted twice and we got you on.
That's a good enough grasp of the,
Okay.
of the greenway. that-
So now we're saying that, so that's, we're saying, let's turn that into downtown. Okay, everybody at least needs to understand that. Okay, now, these 3 properties, the light blue properties, where Charm is and all of that, that I was not so much for, but again, I'm sort of indifferent. I'm just like the consistency of things. But all in favor of that, don't knock the ceiling tiles out for downtown. All right, let's raise them good and high because we don't have to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5, 4, and all opposed. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5 to 4, is that right? I didn't know I'd have to get.
That's a hard vote. I could be on that side. The only reason I voted in favor was because it would take that density dollar to redevelop, and I would love a river district. So like, if somebody someday came to the city with an attractive enough offer and a good enough design that encouraged that kind of community engagement, it would be worth doing.
So the potential there is if it's left at government and it gets sold, then somebody's gonna come in with, you know, probably a great idea. It's just gonna take them 6 months versus 3 months to cycle through planning commission twice, a hearing and then as a voting. So it can still be done and it's gonna change from government once Russia buys it. And so.
But the future land use encourages someone to look at it.
Yeah.
It does, yeah, for sure.
But as government, yeah, I see that, that's why I'm kind of like, I ain't gonna lose sleep over this one, but.
We would be advertising as a potential thing other than what it currently is.
You'll get interest. quick.
If it goes.
Yeah.
If future land.
That's a lot
Can I
of.
make a
But it's-
It's
suggestion?
like, wait, how,
Yes, you may.
All right, instead of looking at the 3 parcels that are blue, I understand where the conversation is going. What if it was just the 2 southernmost and not the longer third? That maybe has more value as a parallel linear park or some other complement to the greenway. It also would provide a little bit of buffer against a water treatment facility, which is not necessarily where we want to extend our downtown next to. Just a
I
thought.
could go with that.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's really wise.
I'm more in favor of that.
Yeah.
so where does the top one is the old dump, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the incinerator is where Charm, the old incinerator,
Incinerators right here. These 2 are really the old dump.
We've only.
those 2.
We got you.
Only got 2.
Like your idea, Bruce.
Yeah.
These 2 guys.
I think I'd go.
For the record, I don't like mine.
Do I take my cat?
It's just me trying to help. Yeah, we're more. Bruce.
Thank you.
Okay.
Made the record.
So, I still say it
I
doesn't
get a big one.
consistency issues, but I will have to just talk to my wife or somebody
Hey,
about
Bruce,
my
why
problem.
don't you like that? You're the foremost expert in the room. I kind of.
I wouldn't say that, but I would be. Well, there's something to be said for some incrementalism with this plan. I think you guys have bought into that and the discussion has really looked at that and where to turn the dial and how much to turn the dial.
I think we're pushing too far here.
The downtown boundary, if you scroll down, has already been extended in this discussion, not once, but twice. This would be a 3rd extension. And it's not that I understand the logic. I'm not questioning that at all. But the incrementalism of this, I think room to expand might be helpful. It depends what message you want to send. And all of this is sending a land use policy message. So the defense of that message, as I'm hearing the discussion right now, is we have, call it an industrial site, for lack of a better way to say it. And the opportunity to redevelop that industrial site is greater if it has this future land use plan, say, commercial downtown, than it is to leave it as government and let that process play itself out whenever it should come along. That's what I hear you say.
And I think, not that we're not catering to anybody else's future look at this, but what are the other entities that are gonna be looking at this that we present?
Well, I think if this committee puts out the message that we want to aggressively densify our downtown because of the scary stuff we've gotten from our experts, that 30,000 people are coming. I'd rather the development be down here in downtown where there's infrastructure and et cetera, and trading those densities into, a less dense area.
And I would take that a step
So-
further and say, I'd rather just pack students down there to get them out of neighborhoods,
There you've gone to preaching.
you know?
And if it's an
Wait, the
aggressive.
students here on those,
It's practically taken away.
And some
Already there.
Yeah, there are there. Some of this is somewhat unlikely. Like, when we go to the peninsula, I think it's unlikely that we're gonna go
it's also where all.
start tearing down relatively new houses to assemble that. I mean, that's.
Cemetery got thrown over there, so there's probably a zillion horses in that cemetery.
I understand the push and some people are obviously really ready to vote, but obviously some other people aren't. It's really hard when you have a 5-4 vote on a committee like this. I don't know how you resolve that.
I like that we're gonna have a lot of we're gonna have public comments, we're gonna have planning commission, we're gonna have mayor commissioner, so.
Well, I'll tell you, we have, our planning commission currently is as pro-development as I've ever seen it. Would we be in favor of just extending to the peninsula for tonight and leaving the government blue as is?
Yes.
I don't know.
Where's the peninsula?
The mustard.
The mustard.
Okay, do we want to revote the blue?
He's saying revote the mustard. Is that what you're saying?
No, you're saying, aren't you saying leave the mustard, but
Okay, so we had 2 votes going. We had one that said the mustard and it was almost unanimous that it was going CD.
Right.
Correct.
And then we had another one that was really torn and contentious about the 3 blue parcels. I was saying leave that one to planning commission to decide if they want to.
to leave it government?
That's what I
Leave it
say.
government. And I think that also Bruce made some really good points about incrementalism that I just wasn't really thinking of.
Bruce, do you want to
Yes.
vote on the blue part, on the government part?
Do what?
We didn't vote.
Yes, we did.
Oh, yeah, we did. 5.
That was 5-4, and chair can actually make a tie.
There's also a
Robert's rules. They can break them and make them. So I'm gonna make it. So we officially tied and it went nowhere.
Once you get
So it stays,
Real.
stays government.
You can make a tie.
Yeah.
Could we
I'm
ask,
gonna switch my vote. Bruce wanted me and say it should stay government for the time being. And
Oh, that's-
err on the side of caution.
I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
Bruce can't make a motion, but would you repeat your suggestion earlier of leaving it as perhaps part of the Greenway?
Well, it's not part of the Greenway now,
I know.
but the longer portion is what I was referencing, not the two down close to college. But because of its geometry and its proximity to the neighborhood to the west and the Greenway facility to the east, maybe that portion's future is something that is more akin to a linear park and not an extension of downtown.
And as somebody who's really pushing for higher density where we have the infrastructure, do you see that this would be a advantageous to retain more open space, green space, whatnot, where we already have a lot of density?
Look, we already have really good green space too. So the Greenway network there is well established and it does serve that purpose where if we're going to bring density in, bringing it next to where we have a park space makes a lot of sense. Those are the opportunities to do it.
So you're not really taking a position then?
I'm giving you information.
Yeah. The position there of having density next to a park, yes. The position of taking those two parcels to downtown in this exercise, I'm a little lukewarm on that. That
Would it be more palatable then? Because the downtown also requires that the grid network and essentially what you see with downtown. With something like a mixed density, which goes to an RM3, it would be a little bit more incrementalism. If in the future we have a gap bridge zoning section between the 200 and the 20 whatever, would that make more sense? So you don't have to build commercial on the Greenway network, or do you want that?
But wait, didn't I get the feel that most people were in line with what Bruce's idea was? Or did I not get that feel?
Well, I didn't say it that way. It got clouded again. Bruce went to the idea of just the two parcels.
Yes.
Then the idea came of just leaving it all alone.
Yes.
Keeping it government consistent. And the fact, and now planning commissions do change. And, 15 years from now, the planning commission might be against any development there. But most planning commissions, I would think, is whatever is near it gets played into it. So again, I don't want to guess
As is,
planning commissions.
and make sure to note to the planning commission that there was a big discussion about changing this
That's a
mustard
good idea.
and then seeing how they go.
Yeah.
You're talking about the mustard or?
I'm talking about all of
All
it.
of
Leave it as is.
No, I'd say go ahead, go with the mustard and go ahead and make that.
I would agree.
I think kind of getting back to your point on consistency. Downtown with the existing footprint, it seems like we just ground truth some things and their government made them downtown, or what was the town center, I guess, urban center. But then going back to like the Pound Street stuff over there, Boulevard, I touched that. And this is kind of expanding downtown outward and placing a future land use designation on government land. So I'd rather keep it just government and change the mustard.
I agree.
I agree with that.
I was gonna say it.
So we're changing, what I'm hearing is changing this to downtown and reflect the complexity of this discussion as we pass this along.
Yes.
Yes, which we will be doing for
Did you say change it to downtown?
the mustard,
Oh, the mustard.
Yeah, the
excuse me.
mustard part only.
Got it.
Crossing the street and not changing
Do you
government.
need to vote on that again?
Well, we voted on the mustard. Everybody's good on that.
Everybody's good on the mustard.
Okay.
Colonel
Most,
Mustard.
most.
I'm gonna jump
I didn't.
quickly to the, oh, he wants me to move this. We had one quick discussion on Hawthorne, and then we've got a little bit more on
Do all that tonight.
Newton Bridge. So the only change we had on Hawthorne was taking this
Usually.
neighborhood center to minor corridor.
That was pretty quick and easy. I think it was quick and easy.
We okay there?
All right, everybody good?
Okay, so the last spot we had was out Newton Bridge, and this folded into a bit of a larger discussion here. So Newton Bridge, we had the town center proposed around general time, and the body seemed to think there was a little more opportunity and a little bit less industrial employment center out here. So we took across the street from general time, so inside Paradise Boulevard, this is the ACC Fleet, the Terrapin Brewery. And then south of that as well. So we've got a little bit south down there to Winston Street, down to the Loop. And then this body thought there was some opportunity inside the Loop. So we're between the chicken plants and the railroad here mostly to go to some neighborhood center in there. So this is Chase Park Warehouse, the new development on Tracy Street, the developments we talked about earlier that are down Chase Street. So pretty substantial center advancement, I would say here, to those parcels.
It's good.
Yeah, it was good.
Now let's rethink the whole thing.
Okay.
Don't say it.
Correctly there, it sounds like.
That answered mine.
Okay. That's the end.
Thank you.
But we do have public here.
Yeah, so that's everything?
Yes, sir.
Everybody's still good? Okay, we will jump in. We won't leave the public out. So I would open, would either of you gentlemen have anything to say? And please state your name if you don't mind.
Thank you. My name's Ken Portier. I live in Cedar Creek subdivision. I'm president of the Cedar Creek Civic Association. First, I want to say my appreciation for letting me watch how this sausage is made. I mean, I don't know how you stood a year of this, but clearly you guys have put just an incredible effort into this. The one comment I really want to make is when you go, and by the way, this will help me when I talk to my community about land use. But the one thing I think that came out of this discussion is I think the public doesn't understand the land use versus zoning. And I think when you prepare and discuss this with the public, you've got to start with that. Because as Kent did, in people's minds, this is all mixed together, well, it's, we're very interested in Gaines School Road and what's going on, mainly because there is a parcel, two parcels that are under debate right now that we're not happy with. Your designation that you just changed helps us a little, maybe helps our concerns over the intensity of development that can happen along that corridor. We're very concerned that the Gaines School corridor overlay zoning is potentially going to be disregarded. It's in force, but it's not enforced. You see, that's our concern. And it's 25 years old. I think most of us recognize it needs to be looked at. It needs to be updated. It needs to match, its zoning needs to match the land uses that you potentially discussed here. And I don't think we're going to have any problems with that as long as it's clear in our mind that while zoning looks parcel by parcel, as you pointed out, the community looks at the street. They don't look at parcel by parcel. They look at land use. And a lot of our concern is that parcel by parcel decisions are not going to take into account the broader picture. And somehow you need to explain to the public how the land use classification is going to impact the parcel by parcel zoning decisions. And I sat before and spoke before the planning commission recently about that. And I didn't get the feeling that that connection was made. There's a lot of discussion about zoning, not much discussion about land use. And so I'm not sure how all this effort that you've put in is going to really impact the future of Athens, if indeed the parcel by parcel zoning discussion doesn't take into account the broad picture. And that's my comment. The other thing on what you were just talking about downtown, I used to live in Atlanta, and the big problem with Atlanta is there's no downtown. There's 7 downtowns. And the concern I would have with what you just talked about now is elongating the city and losing its compactness. And a lot of cities do that. I've seen that happen when I lived in Gainesville, Florida, and other places. So I'm glad you came to where you are because you came to a natural boundary, but I would not look to go further north because when you're going to make this big, long downtown, instead of what we want is more compact downtown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Harry,
That's great.
thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak?
He's my brother-in-law, I'll just let him. I'm married to his sister.
You hear what up?
But they thought this was the best show in town tonight.
I know. Definitely the cheapest show in town, so.
I don't want to know what they would have done.
Yeah.
The whole, like, we're gonna lose the mapping in seconds.
Oh, okay.
I just don't want to, the video is about to cut off because my computer will not let me stop or restart. So I would like, if we're towards the end of the meeting, I just want that to be said. So if anyone's watching, they don't think we're just stopping and doing anything, but
Yes. Okay, so then the only thing I have to jump to is, what will be our next meeting as far as we've gone over everything. We don't need another one of these.
To be determined. So we will go through the public input process, and if there is a large amount of input, and we'll look at that carefully. We're gonna come back to you if we have things that we feel like this body talked about, that the public has said something different. We'll come back and we'll do a meeting to wrap it up and address those things that we heard as we're out in the community. And we hope you're with us to hear those things as well.
Will that be
Can you-
one meeting at a central location or is that neighborhood meeting?
The hope is, well, we'll have all of April with a series of 10, we're looking at 10 separate meetings
Oh, wow.
to take the product that you guys have produced out to the people to talk about.
Can you send those to us?
You will have the dates, you will have the locations, you will have all of that.
So if a landowner, doesn't understand or like what has been promoted here, they have an opportunity to speak about it.
Correct.
Awesome.
All residents will be invited and encouraged to participate.
Great.
But that's a great question. To speak about it or to fill out a form?
Both.
Good.
And how would
We've not been big on letting people speak, so I'm all for letting people speak.
You mean at these meetings?
Yeah, I mean, in city, anything, we just go and look at the wall and tell something to somebody who's walking around, and I don't think that really defines it.
Well, clearly they're opening the door for speaking.
So how will the public comments be incorporated, if they will, into the map, or will they be brought to this board, this committee, or?
We'll wait and see what we hear, but if there are map changes for us to discuss, we will come back to this group to discuss them before we proceed to the planning commission level.
So if one person suggests a change, would that require a discussion, or do you want, after a certain critical mass, or?
We're not going to discount a single person. But if we see themes coming up with concerns, that's the kind of thing that we're going to bring back.
Which was a little similar, if I may, to overdue, but 2 falls ago when this hit the tour to get feedback from the staff was looking for those themes or looking for those consistent desires and then brought toward us. So that's definitely what we would be looking for.
Can I bring a cake to the last meeting so we can celebrate a little bit? Like that?
Well, we're here, Chris.
It depends on what jumps out of it. It depends on what jumps out of the cake.
So you're saying it's a big theme, maybe we come back, but otherwise maybe just circulate an email and say, hey, this was proposed to everybody. I think that's
Yeah,
consistent.
we're gonna see what's the order of magnitude of the comments we get?
Yeah.
And then if we feel like, wow, we missed the mark on these following things. This process has been too important to suddenly ignore this group and their work. We want to bring it back and have the discussion on those things that may come out of this.
Absolutely.
And you really don't want to go to the mayor and commission or to other people and then us say, well, that's not how it was when I lived.
Exactly.
Yeah, or that we didn't hear some of the feedback. So, we
You
don't
don't want
want
a bunch of
mayor
people
commission.
at the podium the night of mayor and commission.
Right.
As if they just found out.
With me, it's super, we've got to be transparent. We've got to filter out as much as we can to make this easy for the planning commission to understand and the mayor and commission, because they have so many other things coming at their brain.
So it sounds to me like you expect to reconvene.
I expect that we'll have one more meeting.
Well, in case we don't, great job to you guys. You did awesome. I know this was tough.
We gotta
Yeah.
have one more. Chris is bringing a couch.
Hey.
We'll have one more meeting. Okay, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all. My dog is probably pulling up.